Well, Grüezi chess fans, and welcome to the fourth round of the Biel Grandmaster Tournament, the 53rd edition of the Biel Chess Festival. And we have a 15-year-old leader in Vincent Kamar, who is taking on the top seed, Pentala Hari-Krishna today. Apologies, by the way, for the sound problems early in the broadcast. It seems to be a gremlin that hits almost every day at some time in the broadcast. I should just tell you that going into this round, Kamar is leading on 18. He is being trailed by Wojciech from Poland on 16.5, Michael Adams on 15, and Pentala Hari-Krishna on 14.5. The bottom half of the field, there's a bit of a gap with David Anton on 11, Arkady Nightich on 10.5, Romain Edouard on 7, and local player Noel Studer on 6. Of course, one win in this tournament is worth 4 points. The draw is worth 1.5. So it is quite easy to move up the rankings quickly, as Anton showed, going from third last to within a win of Hari-Krishna in just one game. So our pairings, Hari-Krishna versus Kamar. This will, of course, be the big game. But we also have Adams against Edouard, and the 48-year-old Brit has a real chance to move up the standings here. Edouard doesn't look in great shape in this tournament. We have Arkady Nightich against Wojciech, and well, Nightich will certainly, with his experience, make it very difficult for Wojciech to move up from his second position. And also Noel Studer against David Anton. The winner will, again, make a big leap forward. It could be anyone. Anton looked in bad shape until yesterday, and he played a very fine game yesterday. Studer did well to hang on for a draw yesterday against Hari-Krishna after, well, being much better for the first half of the game, but somehow the second half was all Hari-Krishna trying to win a slightly worse position. It was very strange to watch, but Studer stood up to the challenge and managed to make a draw. So let's go to the big game first, I guess. By the way, in just over 5 minutes, we'll be joined in the stream by Alexander Morozevich, the Russian player, and he will be coming online well, soon after 1:15 the hour. So our first Hari-Krishna started with c4, and after d4, d5, we have a Slav defense. So knight c3 played. And here, if you really want to be exciting, you can take on c4 and then try to hang on to the pawn with b5. This line has been played quite extensively by players such as Ivan Sokolov with successful. Very often you have to return the pawn, but you can sometimes that can sometimes lead to boring equality. So black plays knight f6, just a normal Slav here, and now e3. So he doesn't want to see knight f3, dc4, which is the traditional main line of the Slav, and instead he gives black an option, if he wants, to put his bishop on f5. But of course, black just prefers a semi-Slav with e6, and now we have all sorts of sharp lines that are possible. Actually, I hear that Morozevich is almost ready to join, so I think we should admit him now if he's in the chat. So let's see. Hello, Alex. Wow, he's changed. There's Alex. Hi, how are you going?
Yes, hi. I think I'm fine.
Good. Okay, I should introduce you. Alexander Morozevich, the peak of his career was 3 wins in Biel, 2003, 2004, and 2006. There were some other little achievements, like being world #1 for a day in 2008, winning 2 Russian championships, being a candidate twice, playing about 7 Olympiads. But he is a big personality in Biel. He was also one part of the fantastic game played with him and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave in 2009, which is still being regarded as one of the most exciting games ever played. And well, how are you doing? And have you had a chance to have a look at the games yet?
Well, I'm quite okay. Currently in Moscow still.
Safe?
yeah, doing my stuff here, and for of course I was following quite a bit this tournament. Of course, I'm very excited to see this live event, especially since for last like 3-4 months I was only watching games online, commenting all these endless tournaments being played online, and now we finally got a chance to see the live event. It's absolutely great.
Yeah, and I've been pretty happy with the games too. I mean, there've been some seriously hard-fought games there, and Vincent Kamer's looking pretty good.
Yeah. I think I've played him a couple of times in these Lichess arenas, and probably not more. But of course, the guy is looking really gifted, and probably he'll be. I mean, he has all the reasonable chances to be one of the top players probably in like 3-4 years.
And I guess that would be Germany's first world-class player since Hübner, I suppose, if he can climb up into the top 10.
Well, let's hope so. Yeah, there are too many talks about Ali Reza now, so we obviously need some more guys on top. Yeah.
He's old compared to Kamer, so
and he's
Kamer's the next generation.
How old is he? He's 15 or how much?
15. Yeah,
15,
so a couple of years younger than Ali Reza.
Yeah. Okay.
And so we have some moves in the game. So it was a semi-Slav with bishop b3 after b5, b4 92. Ever had this position with either color?
But the board is really small. I mean, it's not that easy for me to see.
Oh, okay. I would actually recommend you open something like Chess24 or
I will try to do
or play chess.
So yes, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Even the analysis board is very small for you, is it?
Yeah, it's small. Okay, but
too small. Okay.
I have some other device not far from me. If it will start working, so I guess I'll get the games in with a normal screen.
Okay. And so how does it feel to not play chess for 6 months, or is it a strange feeling, or?
I think it's a great feeling. So anyway, I'm playing chess as much as I never done maybe for my last 5 years. I mean, this quarantine time.
Oh, because of internet.
Brought me completely into the chess world, because I'm not only teaching, coaching, doing some public and master classes, but I was also playing lots of events online. I started to play on Lichess and some other stuff. I think I made the break almost for 5 years. I mean, I wasn't playing in any of the chess sites for this period, and now it seems that I'm back. So,
right, and but would do you prefer this to over the board, or is it just less stressful, or you would be happy to play a serious tournament at some point?
Well, of course, I prefer the live games. I prefer this live atmosphere, but since we have to be really careful these times, okay, I have to accept the modern situation. Let's say, okay, so finally I got the board.
Okay.
And so we have this me run with bishop d3, yes.
That's right, and then with bishop b3.
Takes, and bishop b3 is a relatively rare move, I think, yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Because the mainstream was bishop d3,
and also bishop b2.
The top players were playing bishop e2, which look a bit safer for white, and bishop b3 was normally considered to be like a bit strange place for the bishop, yeah.
Yeah,
e4, knight e2. Okay, I zoom maybe some bishop e7 or c5, and he played bishop e7, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, it's quite a modern trend, actually. If you can play a bad move in the opening and analyze it quite deeply, I think it's a modern trend.
Yeah, well, I noticed Edouard doing that in the first round against Wojciech. Played a strange bishop e6 line, and it was very hard to show any advantage.
Yeah,
You know,
but it's not only about the participants in this tournament. I mean, it's in general, it's a modern trend. I mean, if you can play a bad move in the opening, completely a completely sudden idea, which would be most probably not even noted by any comp, you have to do it as your first intention, because probably
right.
probably it gives you maximum practical chances. Yes.
Chances. Yes, yes. And yeah, well, I mean, bishop b3, I think it was common about 40 years ago. But yeah, I can't remember seeing it for a long, long time. And yeah, so okay. So I was asking, have you ever experienced this position with bishop b3 in your life, or?
Never. I think I was.
No.
I played this Miran only with white. I think I always try to play Slav with my bishop going out from c8, because my understanding of Slav for black, that okay, I'm playing d5 c6. Okay, I'm giving this I'm getting this slightly passive but stable position on the queen side. So the point, I need to get this bishop out from my pawn chain. Just I need to do it. So it was my understanding of the stuff. And the people who are playing c6, d5, e6 was always kind of complicated for me to understand. Yeah. Okay, you can go d5, e6, and then you can be,
and then you can play c6.
Yeah, and then you can be flexible if you want to play c6 one day or not. But if you start at d5, c6, okay, please make sure your bishop will go out from the pawn chain, and then you go e6. And that's why I was always following this philosophy from the black side, and that's why I had a really small experience in all these Mirani types of the positions from black side. And when I was playing white, of course, I was experimenting with different lines. And I played, I think, bishop d3, 6 move, but I was preparing main lines with returning back to d3. And I remember we had a game against V. Shannon in the World Championship tournament in Mexico 2007. I think I also played a couple of more games. So it was some period of time when I was trying to enjoy the stuff with white. But bishop b3 was never in my focus of attention, and I think I trusted too much the authorities of the pastimes who said that bishop has to return to d3. I said, okay.
Right.
I'll not argue about that. So.
Yep. Okay. Well, let's move on to another battle that's been played quite a few moves. I do know a little bit about this line. This is Nightich and Wojciech, and it's a bishop b5, knight d7 line after d4, cd4, queen d4, a6, bishop d7.
First of all, of course, after knight d7, I have to mention that it's an extremely fashionable move here is bishop f4. Yeah, you probably know all this. Yeah.
Sorry, after knight d7, bishop where? c4?
f4. No, bishop f4.
There's no bishop that can go to f. Oh, go to f4.
Knight d7, bishop f4. Yeah.
Hang on. We must have the wrong game, because this is on move 4.
Move 4.
There is
yes.
Move 4 after bishop b5 check, knight d7.
Yes.
There's no bishop that can go to f4.
Bishop f4, not f.
A4. A for Alex.
Yes.
Sorry, my apologies. Yeah. Yes. Okay. And it's weird, but yeah, it's not stupid.
This is a move which when I saw it first time, I was like laughing like crazy. And some of my young students was trying to convince me, no, this is really trendy, this is really on fashion, this is such a smart move. And I was kind of, I can't believe this, such a move exists. But then I was, of course, taking some investigation, and I must admit it's not as stupid as it looks. So probably.
So what is the point after a6? Are you going to go c4 or something, or?
No, yeah. After e6, you can go to the different ways, but somehow after it's like some prophylactic move. You kind of making useful prophylactic move. As I understood it, it's like this. Yeah. So useful prophylactic. Okay. So d4, of course, is another
main line.
Another main line takes queen d4, s6 takes.
And yeah, and I thought c4 on move 7 didn't work very well because of the quick b5 played in the game. So I thought people were going bishop g5 here to try and make something of this position.
Yeah, I remember when I was preparing this line for white in 2013, I think I was mostly considering castle short here for white. Just trying to be flexible with the pawns on the queen side and first making useful and necessary moves, and then only later to decide if I want to have my pawns on c4, f4, or maybe some quick ideas in the center. So I remember that castle short and maybe even followed by some rook e1. I think it was my main idea.
And really wait. Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to make this line for white at some time. Okay, c4. To my understanding, is this slightly early because white.
Yeah, I thought this e5, queen d3, b5. My understanding was this was just equal.
But it is already a good play for black. It looks like trading on c4.
Yep, and bishop e6, h3, h6, castle knight f6. I think this has happened a few times before.
This I would be happy for black, I think. Even though so maybe it might have some plan of playing on the queen side, maybe, yeah. But
I think his idea was to put the knight on f3 somewhere better. And I think in the old days you went knight d2 to try to go there, but he has played rook d1, bishop e7, knight e1.
Yeah.
And just so there's no
but
time.
if he wants to move his knight to the better square, he needs to take care about g5, yeah. So probably rook d1, knight 1 is idea to keep control on the g5 square. To make sure g5 break won't be easy for black. So castle, knight c2.
Knight c2.
Yeah, and he probably wants some knight e3 and knight lands on d5, yeah. Queen
and
d7.
I'm not even sure that's anything so special. Could be a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. But I must admit this looks pretty playable now, yeah, because knight on e3 stands really well.
Yeah, so black needs
we can expect actually here some play, yeah, maybe some b3, bishop b2, and slowly white can probably put some pressure probably.
Yeah, so
but still, of course, maybe nothing special, but maybe some queen b7, maybe some rook c5, maybe some f5, f4. I don't know. Black also has some ideas.
Yeah.
But at least knight on e3 with a combination rook to d1 looks like a good piece, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if all the pieces come off on d5 and we have some rook fd8 move played, I would think many endgames with bishop g5 are going to be a draw. Yeah, you only need one rook to defend d6, and the other one can go on the c file, and rook c5, and so I'm not sure. Putting the knight on d5 is really a very exciting advance. So
but anyway, probably white's idea is that black needs to reckon with this idea on each move, and it makes the practical task isn't easy. Yeah, you need to calculate almost every move. Okay, if he goes knight d5, he goes knight d5. If he takes twice or this, and white can simply keep it as some idea, just to continue playing slow. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Wojciech is still playing fairly quickly. He played queen d7, knight e3, and rook fc8. And that's almost like asking for knight d5, but because you have to take it twice. But maybe that's not scary. Maybe this rook c5 will come again. No, it won't, because there'll be queen c5 if you've taken everything. Oh, and yeah, so, well, maybe we have to put one rook on the b file, but as you say, b3, bishop d2, or bishop b2, or bishop a3.
Well, he may go for any queen trade, maybe some queen b5, queen trades, and rook go to c2. Anyway, he has a quite an active rook. Maybe later king will come closer to the center. It looks approximately equal. So,
yeah, but I think you're right. It's a bit easier to play white at the moment.
Yeah, it just from my understanding, if white finishing the development in time with some b3, bishop b2, rook c1, maybe it's just slightly easier to play with white. So maybe, yeah.
So actually, black has to be pretty accurate around here, I guess, to avoid white getting the perfect position. So yeah, but okay, he's definitely not going for an f5 plan, and I'm wondering, is he looking for queen c6, queen c4 as soon as we take everything on? Maybe queen c6, because then when you play to d5, but we have to take with a bishop then. So you're probably right. B7's a better square.
Well, maybe, but I think I predict that white can play something like b3 now, maybe with the idea to just to finish the development. Maybe bishop can go to a3 sometimes. Okay, if not, I can simply put him to slightly passive position on b2. But I just secure my whole stuff here. So the pawn on e2 is protected. Everything is protected. Okay, the coordination is good. Maybe I can make some luft h3 at some moment or sort of this, and then I can try to play something more active. So
I'm looking at rook c3 and knight e4, but I think I don't have enough control there.
Yeah, it can be. It can be, but it's not that easy for you to push the central pawns. Yeah.
Queen d3 f5, and my problem is, oh no, maybe I can, f3 knight c5 is okay. But yeah, once I get f5 in,
bishop a3 maybe.
Yeah, and I don't actually move them anymore. And then f3 is coming.
C1, I have lots of open lines for my rooks.
Yeah, okay, it's not good enough, I guess. So after b, yeah, so yeah, something like b3, and wait. There's no point in. I was looking at something like queen a7 and knight g4 to get to force white to liquidate something, but it's a bit slow. So okay, let's. There's two games we haven't had a look at, so let's move on. And Michael Adams against Romaine, and this is a French defense, which I think you know a little bit about. Knight c3.
Well, first of all, I'm extremely excited to see Miki in action, since he won some big international tournaments at times when some of the participants of this tournament were not yet born. Yeah, so.
Absolutely. Well, he came second in an interzonal in 1993, when 3 of the players, I think, were not born. So
great.
That was
great.
That was in Biel also. But I think his first British championship was '89, which puts it 31 years ago. So that rules out a lot of the field. So yeah, it's
he also
pretty
won
amazing.
He also won the Tilburg tournament in '92. So
yeah. So no, I mean it's 20 years ago. He was world number 4 for, and he kept that position for nearly 2 years, on and off. So 15 Olympiads. That's pretty good too. I don't know if he's going to catch Torre, but he's still playing well enough to make the English team regularly.
And
so knight c2.
And how much was done by Torre?
I think he's up to 19 now, but I'm not completely sure. It's a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
But the Portish played a lot as well. But he's stopped, whereas Torre is still making the Filipino team. And there was one Olympiad, he turned up and he played as captain and could have played. I think he was strong enough to play, but he, for some reason, he decided to be captain. So even that record could be even a little bit more. I'm just doing a quick check because there's a website called Olympbase, which really has amazing set of statistics. Unfortunately, it's not updated all that often, so it's actually missing the last 2 Olympiads, which I'm fairly sure Torre played, but let's just check. Okay, what have we got?
And Torre
His
now
first
he's
Olympiad.
like, and Torre now he's like 68, 69, yeah?
Yeah, something like that. He is almost exactly Karpov's generation.
And he's still an active player, or he's retired?
No, he played a tournament in the Philippines recently, a sort of online tournament of champions with all the top Filipino players. So he's definitely still playing. So I have him, playing 24 Olympiads? Gee, Mickey's got a long way to go. Okay, he started in 1970, by the way, and he missed 2008. And I believe in 2016 he got some phenomenal score on board 3, something like 9 out of 10, and that was still only enough for a bronze medal because of the way the medals are distributed nowadays. But still a pretty decent result. So he can still play, very much so, and still does.
Good. Okay, good.
So Knight CE2.
Knight C2 is my pet line. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's my pet line. I'm playing this with white every time I'm meeting French with Knight F6.
And is it Alexei Shirov that's played it a bit too? This Knight CE2.
He played it. Sure. Yeah, he played probably for a short time with white and black. I remember he lost to V. Shannon with black, I think, in the final match in New Delhi.
Is that the quick B5 line, or?
I think they played a very interesting game, which I remember was analyzing a couple of days, and I enjoyed it really a lot. I think I got some very nice ideas how to play this for black and white, and I think even this game influenced me a lot to include this Knight C2 ideas into my repatch from the white side.
Okay, so Queen B6, move 7 is black's first big decision, I guess.
Actually, the first big decision was taken on the 7th move for white, because after Knight C6, white has a big choice to go Knight F3 or F4.
Okay.
Actually, this is a really big split, and I personally play here F4. That's my main move, and the theory is quite huge. And Knight F3 is of course also possible. And I think I made the system a couple of times from the black side in 2019. I remember I was playing this against Q-Louts in European Blitz Championship in December, and he played Knight F3. I think I also responded with Queen B6 from black.
Right.
And at 3 also, I think he played this here. I think he also plays here at 3. Actually, white has a choice here to play G3 or A3. G3 is aiming just to finish the development bishop G to and sort of it. And A3 is trying to be more flexible, because by covering B4 square, white is also aiming just to go maybe Knight F4. Because there is no any CD bishop B4 check from black. So A3 is actually kind of more aggressive move. So black plays.
So if black plays A5, do you then change to G3?
If black F5, white can also change to go Knight F4. If white is also prepared, because with Knight F4 you can try to be more active, but of course you need to know how to do after, let's say, CD G5. If you know how to meet such moves, you can go Knight F4. If you don't know how to meet such moves, then maybe you have to settle with some G3, I think so.
Right. Okay. So take
F6 is an absolutely logical and normal reaction, and I think that's how I also played against Mr. Q-Louts. But I think against me he played Knight F4 here. This is an ultra sharp play. Knight F4, F takes E5, Knight E6, and the game quickly goes into complete and very, very messy stuff. So after that, some e4, black can go and sort of it. And of course, it's probably not to the Mickey taste. I think it's you have to
You
be.
can say that again.
You have to be slightly more younger to go for such an approach. Okay, taking on f6 is a solid choice.
Right.
But of course,
And
now it's also kind of acceptable for black because
Tarrasch.
anyway.
Yeah, this is exactly a Tarrasch with a3 extra, yeah?
Yeah, sort of it. Yeah, knight c3, bishop d6, bishop d3. Okay, white is slightly early committed the knight to c3 because in the Tarrasch we have the knight for a long time standing on e2, and white is kind of trying to be flexible with that knight because sometimes white move bishop f4, sometimes white bringing knight to g3, sometimes knight can even go to f4. So in the Tarrasch, white tries to keep the knight as long as possible on e2 to decide how they want to play. Here the knight is already committed to c3, so it makes it is some pros and cons. Yeah. Okay, castle, and e5. And okay, about e5, I don't know because it looks, of course, tempting to open up the play, but I don't know what's wrong with some normal play like bishop d7, maybe bringing bishop to h5. Or sort of it, since I don't remember any theory here, so it's just my general feelings that maybe e5 is not such a necessary move. Okay, it was played. So exchange on e5, take knight.
Okay. Yep, knight takes back, and bishop e2. So he wants something small.
If white has any tactics here after knight e5. Knight takes d5. Or what? I don't know. It must be calculated. Yeah. I think like knight d5, knight d5, knight e5, bishop e5, maybe bishop c4, and then maybe just trying to get some pawn. Okay, it looks maybe dangerous. Or maybe I have some knight d5, knight d5, takes queen h5. I have some move because I'm attacking h7 and I'm attacking e5.
And the bishop, yeah. And
I don't know. It must be calculated, of course, quite precisely. But it looks tempting. It looks tempting, but I have no idea what goes on.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, after queen h5 in that line, I guess you can take on h2. That's something. But white will have the bishops, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, probably Mickey still follows some of his preparation, sort of it.
Right.
I don't know. It looks quite
well.
solid.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you wonder if he's actually had intended to play exactly this. It's hard to know. I guess, yeah, e5 wouldn't feature heavily in your preparation normally, I guess.
Well, if he was preparing this line for white, and we can, of course, say that he must have done so. Because black has responded in a very, very natural way. Yeah, like this. Queen b6 f6 is one of the main systems for black. Taking bishop d6, castle d5, all moves are very, very logical. So of course, if you're checking this, you must have some idea. So
yeah, and
bishop e2,
well,
black taking.
Yeah, that doesn't seem very scary. Bishop e2. So
it takes a d4. Yeah. Okay.
4. Yeah.
And
Edward still has more time than when he started. So knight c2 probably didn't come as a surprise. So, okay, where do we want the knight?
No, not so. To me, it's not so clear.
Yeah.
Because you can consider almost every jump. It makes some sense. Okay, knight e4.
Not even knight a4.
Knight e2, knight f4. Knight e4, e2, f4. I don't know. It's but overall, I have the feeling it should be more or less okay for black. Bishop on d6 looks good. Bishop on c8 is ready to join the play.
Yeah.
White's bishop on c1 is kind of without so much ideas. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say knight e2. At least that puts some pressure on the pawn.
Yeah, probably.
So
knight e2 is maybe quite logical. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess there's rook d8 if you want. But
we can also consider
yeah,
some jumps, maybe like, I don't know, bishop g4, knight g4, maybe knight g4, just to try to play active.
Okay, so we can't take it after knight g. Well, bishop takes simply looks good for black, I guess, or maybe queen d3. But black's got bishops. It must be good. Bishop f5 and d3. Okay. Oh no, you haven't got bishop f5. Okay, so okay, take queen d3 is possible. So what do? But hang on, can I just play h3? Knight h2 and give a bishop check and rook e1.
Yeah,
or is
yeah,
this too dangerous?
Well,
because of d3.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's have a look. Knight h2 check. King h1, rook e1. F2 is definitely scary, but
the d3 logical.
Yeah, d3. Yeah.
And it's maybe okay, yeah, because if bishop e3, you can take on e2.
On e2, yeah. Yeah, this is not great unless knight g3. Oh no, sorry, bishop g3. I've just blown a piece. Okay, so this is horrible, yeah.
Yeah, looks pretty scary. Also, after h3, we have rook f3 idea. Also, maybe possible, because if g takes 3, then knight h2.
Knight h2 anyway.
Yeah,
that is that's serious. Yeah, and just as a little thing to point out to people, after knight h2, you can't simply return the exchange because there's queen d4, and then knight f3. So yep. So you're actually losing back the exchange here, I guess.
Yeah.
Which isn't too encouraging. Of course, after rook f3, we don't have to take on f3. We could take on g4, and maybe that's not so bad.
Yes.
Because d4 can be hanging. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to move the rook, and then maybe.
And then knight d4, and put it on.
There's some play, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so he's thinking about where to put his knight at the moment. So let's go to Studer and Anton. Studer, whose opening theory has been very good, but his follow-up play hasn't always been so great. But he's had a lot of good positions in both this tournament and the rapid one that they played just before the serious one. So we have a Grunfeld.
Yeah, good Grunfeld.
And an old-fashioned exchange variation with knight e2. Bishop e3, castle, castle. And now b6.
And what happened to great Nico? He's still playing chess?
Yes, absolutely. It's just, well, nobody's playing chess except online in the last 6 months.
Yeah,
but Studer has burst onto the scene, became a youngest ever Swiss grandmaster, and is certainly up there with Nico in the Swiss standings. So he's been given a go in this event, and he's a local boy too. He's from the canton of Bern, which is where Biel is. So why not throw him in?
I just remember that in 2017 when I played Biel last time, that Nico was really impressive, fighting for the top places till the very last round, and Studer was not so strong at that time. So probably since 3 years he probably made a better grow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, last year's Biel, Nico Georgiadis also played some very decent chess. He had one fantastic win against the Peruvian player Corey. Nico can really play when he gets going. He had a terribly unlucky loss to Carlsen, I think, a couple of years ago in an absolutely drawn ending. But also, Noel Studer's actually been training under Arthur Yusupov for 6 or 7 years. They stopped cooperating in 2016, and by then Studer was Grandmaster Strength or very close. He's certainly got a good background in chess. Probably Nico's got more imagination, but Noel seems to control the game quite well.
Okay.
Okay, so b6. I must admit, well, I never considered that one of the main lines, but I think has Peter Fiddler been playing this a little bit?
Yeah.
b6 here. So rook c1, bishop b7, bishop b5. Oh, so that's directed against knight a5, I guess, but he plays it anyway. Okay, I have to admit I don't know this theory.
Okay, 1 second. I need to fix the charger for my comp.
Okay, sure.
For another charger. So.
Right.
I'm back.
Right, with more power than ever.
Yeah. So b6,
okay,
but I think b6 is a kind of one of the main moves here now, yeah?
It's gradually become that, but I'm an old person, so I remember the days of Queen c7 and stuff like that. Smyslov systems, yeah.
Yeah, when I also play this Bloomfield line for black, I somehow always anticipated to study this bishop g4 and these strange lines which were very, very popular in this Kasparov matches, this f3, knight f5, this bishop f7.
Bishop f7 and all that, yeah.
Yeah, I always thought it's a really, really strange line to study for both sides, for either white or black. So at times when I was playing Bloomfield, I was playing normally with queen c7. I thought it's a kind of a logical, classical approach, some flexible queen c7, then maybe rook d8, then maybe b6, then maybe something else. And of course, nowadays people are even more smart. They think that you should not waste any tempis with queen c7, just go directly b6 and be happy, yeah? Okay.
If you can be happy.
Yeah.
Okay, so
okay, if people would tell me ever that, okay, you can play b6 not being afraid of what white can capture on c5, then I would think that, okay, then of course probably I don't need any queen c7 move, yeah.
Yeah. So, I should tell people the idea of b6 is that if you do take on c5, we can play a move like queen c7, and there are some lines with knight d4, I think. But basically, if white takes on b6, you take back with the pawn, and black will have one weak pawn on b6, but white will have two weak pawns on a2 and c3, and a lot of those positions liquidate to something pretty close to a draw. So it's pretty hard to get an advantage in the Grunfeld when you take on c5, except in exceptional lines. So here, after knight a5, so is white ready to go d5 here? No, then a6 probably.
Yeah, a6 looks quite typical, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe some a6 and knight c4 can be also considered for black, maybe to occupy the square, maybe to attack the bishop on a3, to prepare some knight b2, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and if we just decide to be quiet and play f3, which I usually don't want to play, there will be, okay, then on a6 we can go back with the bishop to d3. But we could wait also and play well, actually, we could wait and play queen c7 after f3, perhaps. Doesn't look so bad.
Well, after calm move like f3, black needs to decide if he afraid of taking on c5 in some moment or not, because he can, of course, play some cd, e6, just trying to be solid, maybe get some queen e7, rook c8, playing something like this. But of course, cd is a kind of nice improving of this
improvement for white,
of the structure for white. If we play, let's say, f3, e6, immediately, I don't know if we should be afraid of any d takes c5 now, maybe some.
Yeah, that's what I was getting a little bit nervous about, but maybe I should.
Because with the pawn on e7, white has this square on d6. Yeah, if we go some queen c7 or queen e7, white can go queen d6, and it's a bit annoying for black, probably.
Indeed, yeah. So.
I don't have any exact knowledge about this position, or I don't have any vast experience to say what's best for black. I don't know, maybe some rook c8 move or queen c7. So I couldn't manage to force myself to becoming a Grunfeld expert. So anyway, I decided that it's better to be a Albin Gambit expert than to be a Grunfeld expert. So
yeah, well, I sort of remember we played a game in the Bundesliga where I played a Scandinavian, and you absolutely smashed it with a 3-knight f3 line. And at the end of the game, you said, well, I had a lot of time over the Christmas holidays, and I spent 6 weeks trying to refute the Scandinavian. I didn't quite do it, but this line was pretty good, or something like that. And I thought, who spends 6 weeks of their Christmas time refuting the Scandinavian when you're going to play it extremely rarely? But yeah, well, were you thinking about playing it on the black side, or you just wanted to make sure you always beat it on the white side?
Well, I think it's anyway. You have to do this job once in a while for sure, and of course you need to find the system or some approach which can be suitable for you for years, because that's the problem with all these non-topical openings, because you don't want to come back to them every time so often. So you basically want to have a system which can be fitting you, and you want to continue playing from time to time whenever you meet any of these rare systems. And that's why I decided to spend that I will spend as much time as I need, but I will be absolutely sure that I will find a system which is completely suitable for me, and I'll be sure that Scandinavian, Alekan defense, all these openings will not bother me at any time. So
yeah,
that's how I came to this strange third knight f3 move.
Yeah, well, I mean, since then it's been extremely popular, I must admit, often transposing to the knight f6 Scandinavians as well, so you get double value for it. And also, I should also mention, by the way, that this system that Alexander came up with involved his king going from e1 to d2 to c3 by about move 18, with pieces on the boards and queens on the board. So it was quite a sophisticated idea, and won the game easily. So I guess before we let you go on the hour, we should. I'd just like to ask you a few of your memories of Biel, actually, because you've played here quite a lot. So what's your memorable moments from Biel chess festivals over the years?
I think I've played in 5 editions, if I'm not mistaken: 2003, 2004, 2006, 2009. No, in 6 editions actually: 2009, 2011, and 2017. Yes, and in the 7th edition, 2012, unfortunately, I was sick after a couple of rounds, and I have to withdraw from the tournament. It was it was very tough moment for me, but I think that anyway, health is probably more important than anything else in your life. And
probably yes.
But of course, it was a tough decision. But but anyway, I decided to make it. About the most, of course, you mentioned the game which is widely known thanks to the Biel tournament is my game against Maxim Vashelograf from 2009 year. And this game, I think I was asked most of the time to show it to the public in lectures, to explain. Actually, I don't know, Maxim won that game, but I think I'm taking all the money for it. I'm feeling actually quite bad about that, and I was even thinking that maybe I have to pay some percentage from all my earnings from that game and probably send it to Maxim, because he's a deserved winner. But unfortunately, he's still an active professional player, and he's probably not in time to go to any of these public lectures or whatever. And I'm doing that, and people asking, okay, show this game, explain this and that, and of course, making paying and sort of it.
You're like the modern Duke of Brunswick, where everyone says, "Show me your game against Morphy from the Opera House."
Yeah.
So it must be a bit sad if the game you're famous for is the one you lost.
Yeah, it's a kind of a strange destiny that actually I'm the one who is showing this game. I'm the one who is giving all the poses. I'm the one who is giving all the appreciation from the public. But actually, the actual winner still exists somewhere, and he's still active, and he's still a really successful professional player. Yeah, and I remember that even in 2010, when I was working for half a year in Qatar, one day to the Qatar Chess Federation appeared a mighty sheikh. And when this mighty sheikh appeared, he was actually quite a prompt, good chess player. And I also was asked to show a chess game, and of course I understood I had no choice. And again, the game against Maxim went all the way through. So even for the Qatar sheikh, it was still a good choice, and he was also enjoying it really, really much. As for
one day you one day you should see how educated your audience is, and just say, and his rook was caught on h7, and of course I won the game, and just the rest is not interesting, and do it like that. See if they actually know who won.
Yeah, actually, if we talk about my own achievements, my game against Ruslan Ponomarev from my last tournament in 2017 was actually quite a nice attempt from me, and I think it received a lots of applauses from the professional players. So I received like from lots of 27 plus guys sort of wow in comments that we would really love to play such a game once in a while. So of course it's really nice to get this response. That was probably one of my nicest games in the last 10 years. And for the first years, of course, Biel was a place where I really enjoyed almost everything. I mean, the audience, the playing hall, how it's organized. I mean, some special air was so special to me that it's like, I don't know, it was like adrenalining me to play as sharp, as good, as best as I can. So, and that's why I was probably quite successful in the first three editions when I took the first place. But also in 2009 I shared probably second place. In 2011 I took the second place behind Magnus, and in 2017 okay, I was less successful, but okay, still I was with +2 going to the final round, but unfortunately I lost my last game. Otherwise I could also probably share maybe some second or third place. So of course, taking just if we take just my results, it's probably the best place on earth for me. So
yeah, well, and did you go climbing the mountain and swimming in the lake and that sort of thing?
yeah, definitely. I mean, climbing the mountain I did a couple of times, but it was more time taking. So I was mostly preferring to go to the lake. It was my normal leisure time, so going to the lake, or just walk around, or just relax, or just to sit near some fire, or to swim if it was hot enough. So I was doing all that, and I really enjoyed this. Yes.
So can you see yourself coming back to play in Biel sometime in the future?
Well, I mostly see myself coming to Biel maybe as a commentator, as a trainer of some great talent. I don't know, from India or Uzbekistan, or from some of these countries, and to play. Well, maybe if it will be some reputable blitz events, I can play, because these long tournament classical games, I'm wishing to play less and less, so it just takes so much time, and I have too many obligations now, so I hardly can afford spending 10 days playing the classical chess. But if it will be limited for 2-3 days, plus maybe some commentaries, that's absolutely perfect for me. And of course, I'd love to return and to see this wonderful place one more time. That's
fantastic.
for sure. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all your insights and the information and everything. It's been terrific having you on the show. And if you want to come back at some point, you're always welcome.
Yes, sure. Thanks a lot. It's really nice to have an opportunity to make my little effort in commentating this first live event, and it's really nice and very symbolic that it happens in Biel. So I wish success for you, for all the players, and thanks a lot, of course, for organizers to having this event right now.
Thanks very much, and yeah, well, all the best with your future efforts, and yeah, see you later.
Yes. Okay. Bye.
So let's just catch up on the games. The big one, Hari Krishna against Hari-Kamar has suddenly sprung to life only a couple of moves after we left it. We left the Hari-Krishna game after White castled, bishop b7, of course, and suddenly White starts getting super aggressive. Knight f4, c5, knight g5, and all of a sudden f7 is weak, e6 is weak, and we now see the point of the bishop on b3. So it's all tactics, and it's a real question about what Black should do about it. Now, you've got moves like knight d5 or bishop d5, but I'd say knight d5 allows a double sacrifice on e6, which looks very, very dangerous. In fact, maybe it's already winning. Bishop d5 may be possible. Of course, if we take with the knight, we're going to finish up with a pair of bishops, and you may even finish with a very weak d5 pawn. So that's, well, not inspiring. But the question is, can you afford to, for example, castle here? And that is the big question. Or is there some big sacrifice on f7 or e6? Probably e6. So yeah, if you castle, that knight takes on. Let's castle. Knight takes e6. Pawn takes. Knight takes. And you're going to have to move your queen somewhere safe. So let's say queen c8, since it protects the bishop and is uncheckable by the knight. And if now you take on f8, we can, of course, take back with the king. So the real question is, how much has White really got here for the material? And maybe it's not that much. Then again, I'm not sure I see an alternative here for Black, because maybe knight f8, it's really ugly. And bishop a4 check looks nasty, but maybe you put the other knight on d7 then. It just looks really suspicious though. So apart from knight f8, there's not many other things apart from putting a bishop on d5 that you can stop all these sacrifices. And I would expect Hari-Kamar to have a rather long think here, just to make sure he hasn't fallen into something. He spent 12 minutes on his previous move, and he's already spent something like 12 minutes on this move. So it's very dangerous. Quite soon, by the way, we're going to be having a special interview with the wife of Michael Adams, Tara McGowan, who is, of course, a well-known actress, and she's in Biel at the moment with Adams. Probably a nice break to get away. So we have had a move in Studer's game. We were considering f3, but in the end, d5 was played. And okay, so this is our, and here I would expect Black to go for something like a6 to knock the bishop back, and maybe c4. Because if White can play c4 for free in these positions, normally that pawn center is pretty good, and the knight on a5 is offside. So Black would like to play c4. Now you could play it immediately and then try to play e6. But if you play e6 immediately, then c4 should be good for White. Adams and Romaine, we have had a lot of exchanges, and it's not looking that great for Adams, to be honest. So after d4, he decided just to simplify. Knight e4, takes, bishop f5, takes, queen d3, rook here. So White has blockaded that pawn on with the queen on d3, but at the moment it's hard to move the bishop away from c1, and also you have a little bit of pressure on f2. Now that queen maybe at one point can be dislodged by rook b5 and rook b3. White would then have to play b4. So maybe it's worth playing it immediately. In fact, White played bishop d2. So if queen takes b2, he just wants to go rook a b1 and then rook takes b7, which makes sense. So the queen dropped back to c7. And at the rate Edouard is playing, he's still very much in his opening theory. So, well, queen and bishop this way around don't seem terribly dangerous. Yeah, you can play something like h3 and the bishop check is absolutely nothing. So I'm not actually scared of this. I certainly don't want to take on d4, because then bishop h2 and rook h5 looks very nasty. So yeah, a move like h3 looks good, and then black may have to start worrying about that pawn on d4. Maybe bishop c5, and then after b4 you can play bishop b6. So this one is definitely going okay for black, seriously okay. Nightich and Voitasek. Well, bishop d2 was played instead of b3. So bishop d8, so that after knight d5 you don't have to take it. Knight cd5, queen b7. And this is the setup Alex Morozevich was talking about, whereby right now you're threatening to take on d5, and white would finish up with a pawn there. You're possibly threatening to take on b2 and come back to d4 later. So bishop c3 looks like a very normal move. The bishops are a little bit strangely placed there. But even in that sort of position, there could be pressure on d6 in some lines here too. Okay, we now have our interview with Tara McGowan along with Dina. So it's all yours, Dina.
Hello and welcome to the live scene of the 53rd Biel Chess Festival 2020. We are having here with us a very special guest, an actress and producer, also happened to be wife of Grandmaster Michael Adams, Tara McGowan. Hello, Tara.
Hi, nice, lovely to be here.
Thank you very much. Is it your first time here in Biel?
No, I was here with Mickey. I think it's exactly 5 years ago, and yeah, I had a lovely time then, and I'm having a wonderful time now.
How do you spend your time here?
Oh, God, it's great. I love when yesterday I went up to the animal park, the little zoo, which is open air zoo up the hill, and it's a lovely walk. So, and mostly, yeah, I go up into the forests and walk or run, go down to the lake. It's just so incredibly beautiful. There is so much to do in nature here. I love it.
You travel a lot with Michael on the tournaments. What is the importance? How important it is for Michael to have you on the scene of the tournament?
Well, I travel with him slightly less now than I used to because I took a long break from my career, but then I went back to it. So now it's not always possible. But I think it's nice that it gives us more time to be together. It gives him some company in the evenings, and maybe a way to not think about chess 24/7. That you can actually think about something else and just interact with. I'm a non-chess person. I don't play, so we don't talk about it in the evenings. I think sometimes that's a nice release.
You're also an actress and a producer. You're known for many works such as Miss Marple, Mother Krampuses, let me think, The Secret Places.
Secret Places?
Yes.
Yeah, that was very early. It was my first film, in fact, and just a beautifully crafted little British film that I think was very popular at the time. It was a joy to work on.
We know that you also worked recently on Macbeth. How did your work was organized during the lockdown?
Yeah, no, this was quite. Actually, Macbeth has been quite a running thing in my life for the last year. So, last year I did 2 different live productions of Macbeth. One where I played Lady M, one where I played Lady Macduff. Very different productions, but I did them one after another, which was actually fascinating to have 2 very different takes on the play in such a short space of time. This year, when lockdown started, I was working on 2 different stage productions, one at the Brighton Fringe and one a production of Midsummer Night's Dream in South Devon, around near where we are. So with lockdown, of course, we can't do this. And the theatre director there, who is very innovative, very a woman who really sees past problems to solutions. So she put the production online on Zoom, and so we made a paid platform for people to watch on Zoom. So we did Midsummer Night's Dream this way, and then she also went back and did a play that she had done last year, yet a third production of Macbeth, nothing to do with me then, but just as it was about to go ahead, they had a cast member have to go out for personal reasons, so they said, can you come back as Lady Macbeth again? So we said, okay, so do another one. So as a lot of Macbeth in less than a year, really. But yeah, of course, it's 100% sorry about my watch beeping. All of the rehearsals were online on Zoom, and all of the performances were online on Zoom and live, still live, but via Zoom onto YouTube.
Do you think people who watch can lose something while it is on Zoom, or it's still a very good quality, judging by the fact that you have to do it from the remote?
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything. You change a platform, you change a lot of the dynamics. So we did it. We all had green screens, so we had the backdrops matched. It wasn't just like sitting in your chair. You know, we would all have matching backdrops for each scene and costumed. So it was fully staged as far as you can in your own home. It wasn't just an online read. But the dynamics of the way that the Zoom cameras work and how they switch, again, changes some of the interaction. Like most things, I think you could say, sometimes for the worse, sometimes for the better. You adapt.
Maybe like a difference between online chess and over the board one.
Yeah, I guess so. There's just that you adapt to different inputs and different stimuluses and go from there.
Right, and we also had Michael here recently for an interview, and he said that the situation here in Switzerland and back in England is rather different, and he feels pretty much good here because the atmosphere in general is positive. How do you feel about it?
I think, I mean, it has been lovely here. The atmosphere does feel incredibly positive and good. I mean, I think that every country is at a slightly different stage. You know, maybe they go in earlier, they come out. I think in England, it is what it is. We're still emerging from it, or England, and again, I mean, Scotland and Wales are doing slightly different. So, we're all emerging gradually. But here it feels like it has got further back to normal than the UK. But hopefully we will all get there and we will all come through the other side.
All right, thank you very much. We wish you all the best and very good luck, Michael.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome back, and thank you, Dina and Tara as well for that. It must be quite tough being in England nowadays. Okay, so let's go back to the games, and the big one. Well, actually, before we go back to the biggest game, I'll just take you to the Studer-Anton game, because while the interview was on, I had a small chance to check out the theory, and in fact, this 12 bishop b5 move has been played a lot this year online by Anish Giri, and also Ali Reza Farouja, the young Iranian talent. But Anish Giri, who's currently playing in the League of Legends tournament that starts in an hour or so, he has had decent results with it, nothing particularly special. But in fact, after knight a5, d5, this has not happened. Almost all his opponents have gone rook c8. This has happened only the once in tournament chess, as far as I know, and that was a game between Rainer Knack, who was one of these really innovative players, a very strong German player from especially the 1980s, and had some wonderful ideas. And he beat Vlastimir Jansa, one of the very top Czech players of the time, in very short order after e6, c4. And as we mentioned, allowing c4 is probably not the right idea. So this is why Anton is having a good think. And I think he'll discover that even though it looks like it might have arisen from something normal, this actually isn't quite the type of position that his analysis would have concentrated on. So all in all, it's definitely a complicated, typical Grunfeld, and one where you would expect black to need to play c4 before white does. But okay, back to the exciting game, and still no move. Sorry, this is not the position. Still no move from Kamar after knight g5, and it would be quite scary. Yeah, your opponent still, well, perhaps almost in theory or very close to it, and suddenly you're faced with the threat of having knight takes e6 happen to you, and it's really hard to know what you should do here. Yeah, it's knight f8 looks so awkward that it's really hard to recommend it. I'm pretty sure bishop a4 check anything to d7. And well, maybe it's knight f d7 then. That might just hang on, but it's so ugly. Bishop check, knight here. I wonder if that's playable. So if there's no knockout blow, perhaps this is okay because the knight on g5 is attacked twice. And do you have something else scary? It's hard to see. A move like d5 could actually be very good as well, but it's perhaps not game over here. But anything else, it looks like knight takes e6 is going to hurt, which is why I want a castle to get my king in the corner. So, for example, if you just take on d4, I could well imagine that you will not survive this. Knight takes. Oh, I could have also taken on f7. That was definitely possible. And this is the third pawn, and this looks rather like a very, very bad Sicilian. And okay, white's probably got a big choice here. Knight e6 check, but you could wait on that and maybe take on d4. And you have a choice taken with the queen, probably the queen, and although then queen e5 might swap some pieces off. If you take with the pawn, it might be good as well, but it should be a really, really strong attack because you've got 3 pawns for the piece already, and that black king is running around the middle without any real hope of getting away easily. So yeah, this is horrible. And this is why I feel as if Kamer simply has to castle and be brave. But of course, you'd want to absolutely double check that it's not winning after takes, and queen c8. But I can't see a win anyway. If castles doesn't work, you're probably in desperate trouble anyway. So Adams and Romaine. Adams decided after queen c7 to play to play g3. So right now the d4 pawn is threatened, and after queen f7, with the idea of if queen takes d4, then bishop c5, he's going for f4. And this is really crunch time for black. If black can play g5 here and get away with it, then black may well crash through. But if he can't, then it may be okay. Certainly g5 looks very scary, very scary indeed. So how do we answer that? Well, there is g4 then, and maybe that's Adams's idea. If you move your rook anywhere, then we just play f5 and hopefully we keep you out. And if you take on f4 as an exchange sack, then after bishop takes, I can probably steal a pawn on d4, and that may not be enough for the exchange. So that's the point behind what Adams is doing. And, well, it may be okay, but it's not inspiring. Here, black played a5. And I guess it's against bishop b4, swapping off a pair of bishops. It's certainly not the square you want the pawn to be on in an endgame, but it may not be so bad. And I believe there's still no real threat of g5 here, but black may be thinking about queen d5, and yeah, it could be that black is controlling the board reasonably well here. So I think Adams is still probably a little bit worse. He's certainly worse on the clock, half an hour behind, and counting. So I think he might want to just put a rook on e1 and e4, perhaps. Really, white would like to swap some pieces. So perhaps rook c1 and queen c4 is a possibility too. I know I'm letting the d pawn run in some lines, but with a lot of pieces off the board, I'm not too worried. So Eduard's got to be careful that he doesn't finish up in a slightly worse ending. I really feel like a g5 idea would have been sort of necessary, but maybe it just doesn't work tactically. In which case, queen d5, let white play bishop b4 if he really wants to, because that can't possibly be other than slightly better for black. So I'd say Adams is over the worst here, though he needs to find a good move. And well, we'll follow that one up. Nightich and Wojciech. This was the strange queen takes d4 Sicilian, where white got his knight on f3 to e3, which was a good achievement. And then black put his queen on b7. So here you could play knight takes f6, bishop takes f6, queen takes d6, but after queen takes b2, it looks like it's highly likely to be about equal. So instead, bishop c3 played, and now knight takes d5. So what white would normally want to do here is go knight takes, bishop takes, queen takes, rook takes, and just say, okay, I have a better bishop and there's a weak d6 pawn, so I should be quite good in this ending. And it's true that it's definitely a little bit better for white, but first of all, bishop e7 protects the pawn quite well, after which white has to worry about the black rooks coming in. And secondly, if you take the bishops off the board here and you put the king, the black king, say on e7 or e6, this is the sort of ending that black has been known to win, most notably, I think, a Akiba Rubinstein game, where winning it with black was described as black magic, because you would think with a backward d pawn and nothing much else going for it, you'd be in trouble. And in that game, the pawn was on c5 rather than e5, but similar ideas. So I don't see why Nightich doesn't go for this, but so, well, you would expect after knight d5 and take back, but he must be looking at taking with the pawn and using the f5 square and perhaps playing f4 at some moment when white's not looking. So I guess he's thinking about pawn takes, bishop back, and perhaps f4 here. Although it's still possible you can take it, and probably black's fine as well. Probably black is absolutely okay. So it's, yeah, he did take with the knight. Okay, so knight takes was played. But black did not continue swapping. After knight takes, he simply played rook c6. So d6 is protected. He might want to play queen. Oh, I don't know if he wants to play queen b5 here, but he can double on the c file. And I guess he's hoping that his position here is indestructible. As if you've doubled on the c file, it's a lot harder for white to move the b pawn up. So exactly what white does here is hard to know. If knight b4, we probably just go rook b6. Bishop c4 seems a little bit fancy, and that seems to be okay. So Wojciech looks like he's close to equality, and Nightich has whatever advantage there is, but it's one of those positions where it's very hard to make any progress. So I think black is okay. Finally, Kamer has moved, by the way, and he did castle. And Hari-Krishna has yet to sacrifice on e6, but you can certainly see that coming. So that will be scary, I must admit. But, well, there's no other reason for putting it on in g5, so it will definitely happen. And when it does, take, queen c8. I just can't see any real progress here, but maybe there will be something for white. Progress apart from just taking on f8. And if you get a rook and 2 pawns for 2 minor pieces, that's really roughly equal, despite what you learn. Only in an endgame would rook and 2 pawns actually be better than 2 minor pieces. But if you get a position like this and take the rook and king takes, well, if white could get the pawns rolling up the board, I could believe it. So maybe there's a d5 move here, although I'd be a bit worried about queen e5. Oh, sorry, there is no queen e5. That makes a difference. So d5, if you could follow with e4, then it's possible white is better. But I usually back the pieces to do something good. So I am a little bit nervous. Well, it must also be Hari-Krishna preparation, so I shouldn't be that nervous. Even so, it's not going to be easy at all for black, given his opponent is nearly 40 minutes ahead on the clock. That's a lot, especially if there is a forcing line here that puts pressure on black and forces black to play really accurately to survive. Okay, the one game we haven't looked at for a while is Adams against Edouard. And Adams did in fact decide to swap off the queens on c4, take, and that looks like it will be, did he already swap? Yeah, he did. Queen takes, rook takes. It's hard to imagine this position being anything other than roughly equal. Rook d5 looks like a decent move here. There's no entry squares on the c file for that rook on c4, and I think your d4 pawn is reasonably safe. Perhaps white will be able to play rook d1 and bishop e1 and bishop f2, but at some point that d pawn rather can start moving. After rook takes, he decided to play g5 here. Okay, and now our question is, of course, what happens after g4? So that was the question before. And again, if the rook moves somewhere, it could go to b5 again here, though. You don't have time for f5, probably. Yeah, that actually rook b5 could be a decent move. So I'm not sure about g4 at all, actually. It's definitely a little bit scary. So g4, rook b5. So if we don't do that, there are problems on the f4 pawn. But are they actually enough to lose is another question. Well, I'm sure Adams won't want to allow black to just take on f4. But I was just looking at something like rook, king g2, pawn takes pawn, and then rook takes d4. But f3 check is annoying, and I'm not convinced that's actually surviving. So I'm not happy at all with the way this is progressing for Adams. Instead of dead equality, he's got something rather different. Okay, so let's see. Nightich and Voitasek after rook c6, no move. And finally, we have a move by Anton, and it is c4. And that is definitely the right idea. So after c4, well, white will not be able to play c4. So the question here is, of course, what happens on things like knight d4? What happens when you go has white got a move so that you can answer e6 with d6? And will that knight on a5 prove to be poorly placed? All of them are key questions at the moment, and I'm not totally sure how to answer them. So we will see. Right, so let's, well, we're going to have Dina joining us quite soon in the box. Just a reminder that Vincent Kamer, the 15-year-old from Germany, is our current leader on 18 points, 1.5 points ahead of Radoslav Wojciech. That's 1.5 points is a draw, so it's the equivalent of +1 ahead of Wojciech. And Hari-Krishna, who won the rapid tournament, is actually sitting in 4th place on 14.5, half a point behind Michael Adams of England. And I thought maybe we'd have a look at our top seed, Pentala Hari-Krishna, as he ponders whether to start sacrificing on e6. I think he absolutely will. So he was born in a small village, really, called Guntur. And that village was in Andhra Pradesh, about 250 kilometers from the biggest city of Andhra Pradesh, which is Hyderabad. And apparently Hari-Krishna was watching his grandfather play chess in the village, not at home. And he became interested, and he stayed watching the games for quite a while. And eventually his grandfather taught him the rules of the game. And well, that was that for a while. But then at some point, he actually intervened, suggested an interesting move, and both players looked at him and thought, that's not bad at all. So the grandfather decided to teach Hari-Krishna the moves seriously. And the result has been a rather strong player who, as I mentioned with before, has actually reached world number 10 back in 2016. That's when he was 30, and we'll see if he can recapture that. He was a 15-year-old grandmaster, which back when he became a grandmaster, that's nearly 20 years ago, is certainly was a major achievement. He was the youngest Indian grandmaster at the time, although now people will just laugh if they hear, they'll think he started late and playing, becoming a grandmaster with guys like Pragnanandha and Gukesh and so on. And he's played 9 Olympiads already for India. He won the Commonwealth Championship quite a while back, 15 odd years back. He won the World Junior in 2004. So he's really, and that World Junior, the under 20, he was 8 years after he won the World under 10, when he really announced himself to the world. And when his parents, approximately when his parents decided, okay, let's move to Hyderabad, and because he was having real difficulty traveling to just good Indian tournaments. So that made life a lot easier for him, and also a big airport there, of course. He played Biel twice in 2013, where he won the Master Open and qualified for the top group, and then in 2014 he came 3rd behind Wojciech and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. So he's got some experience. He attributes a lot of his success to some early coaching from Evgeny Vladimirov, who was a former second of Garry Kasparov, and came out to India. I think Hari was very impressed with him, and they worked together for quite a while. And he believes the fact that he's got this peculiar style for India, if you like, a not tricky at all style, is partly due to the coaching from Vladimirov, sort of the Russian school of chess, where you don't do unhealthy things, you play healthy chess, and hopefully the combinations will follow, not from a bad position, but from a good position. Apart from that, well, let's see, he's been Asian champion. He's really had an enormous success, and he's one of the players who actually played played 2 tournaments in 2020. Oh no, maybe it was only one. The Prague Masters tournament in February. He was just half a point off first place, but he also was in 6th place. So there were rather a lot of people tying for first in that event. As I mentioned, yeah, he's got the big job. He's got to take down the leader today against Vincent Kamer, and he has sacrificed on e6. So knight takes, pawn takes, knight takes, and Kamar is now considering where to put the queen. I think it has to be c8 because you need to protect your bishop on b7, and if you play queen b6, then pawn takes pawn on c5 looks extremely strong, if not winning. So queen c8 is going to be played, I'm sure. And I guess you could go to b8, but it looks a bit silly. Very silly. And then after knight takes, rook, king takes, yeah, this is where if Hari can move his pawns, he's doing well. You could, of course, just go for a single pawn after queen c8. But what do you do here? Actually, you don't even need to lose your light squared bishop, because even bishop d5 might be a move, though I'm not sure about that because we can swap a few times and then start pushing the center pawns. Maybe it's not that scary, but yeah, it could work out pretty well for white. So I'm not sure whether you take on f8 or you take on c5, but either way, I strongly suspect that we'll find out quite soon. Okay, still no move from Michael Adams after g5, which is a bit of a worry. Yeah, down half an hour on the clock or even more, and facing a slightly worse endgame. Sorry, the g4 has not happened, by the way, here because of rook b5, and yet maybe this is the road to salvation after g4, because it's hard to believe that it's really all that bad. So, by the way, Kamar did play queen c8, but so g4, rook b5. And to be honest, maybe you could play f5 then. So I wonder if you could get away with this here and f5, because if you take on b2, I can either take on, if I take on g5 or a5, you do have bishop h2, not that that's really crushing. So maybe we should just take on g5, try to get some mobile pawns. And although black is probably a little bit better, it's not so scary. So I don't see too many easy options apart from that. As I say, you could try and give away your f4 pawn. I wonder if you could do something really bizarre like rook d1. It's not stupid though, because after takes, rook d1 takes, you could take with the bishop, and then when you get the f4 pawn, we get the d4 pawn, and you may be equal there. So maybe this is the safe way to play. Rook d1. Takes, 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 takes. So even if you go to the 7th, I don't think that's scary. We can go back to the 2nd. And I believe we've got Dina Belenkaya ready to join us. And what's news, Dina?
Hello, Yin. Hello, everyone. I'm back from the live scene. We had a very special guest with us, actress and producer Tara McGowan, also happened to be a wife of Michael Adams. She shared with us some thoughts, her impressions from being here. It's not her first time. Yes, and she also said about her role here, the importance of being someone who can support and spend some time outside chess. I'm pretty sure for most of the professional chess players, we're having here the role of someone accompanying them from the family is very important. Did you have a chance to watch the interview?
I didn't see most of it. I only saw the very end.
Yeah, the very end was actually, I think, the most interesting because she was speaking about her career so far. And she's famous for a lot of works, Miss Marple, The Secret Places, The Dawnings, but she also mentioned her recent work, which is Macbeth. And she did actually work from remote during the lockdown time, and they had the production during Zoom. That is a very interesting experience. Yeah. By the way, I don't know if you captured that moment or not, but in the end, she sent her regards, her best regards. She said hi to Yin and his wife.
Oh, thank you. I'll pass that on to Kathy. That's very kind. Thank you, Tara. And yeah, so she's been a partner of Michael Adams for ages, and I must admit, I thought her career at one point was starring in horror movies, but she seems to have branched out a little bit from that.
Yeah, she did participate in a horror movie, Mother Krampus, which is a horror movie for, I mean, Christmas horror movie. I guess it's also for wilder public, also for young generations. But yeah, and then she also
I haven't seen it. Did she survive at the end? Was she the one person who survived or not?
Apparently she did survive, otherwise we would not have her here with us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's no, the death toll in horror movies seems if you're cast in a horror movie, you've probably got a 1 in 10 chance of actually getting to the end of the movie. It's it must be tough watching all your friends get killed. So
absolutely. How did it go with the special guest? How did it go with the special guest Alexander Morozevich?
Well, he's a great character. He's been a regular at Biel. He says he wants to come back next year and take my job and become the commentator because he's not so keen on classical tournaments. Although possibly we could tag team because he says he wants to play the Rapid and the Blitz. So I could sit out the classical and we could do a Donchenko and Nightich combination and see what happened. But no, seriously, it was great. And of course, his knowledge is amazing. And he admitted Grunfeld wasn't his specialty, but everything else he knew pretty well, especially the Adams game. He was very happy with the way Black played that.
That's very, very pleasant to hear.
No, it's he's been locked up in Moscow, of course, for a while, and there's no real chance to play over the board chess in Moscow at the moment. Not safely, he said. And
yeah, he's absolutely right. Unfortunately, in Russia, it's not that stable now. But yeah, that's one more reason why players here participating in Biel are pretty lucky. So the rest of the world cannot enjoy that much having this opportunity.
Are you based in Russia or at the moment?
At the moment, I came from. I was already in Europe. That's why I was able to come. Yeah. Otherwise,
I was worried about the quarantine period. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you can now leave Russia if you have some concrete reasons like personal invitation and some other requirements as well. But it's true that for general audience, you cannot just go as a tourist into Europe.
Right. Yeah. And I must admit, I'm waiting for a tournament to be held in China where, in revenge for what happened to Ding in the candidates tournament, they demand 14 days quarantine for all the Russian players coming over to play in it. But because it clearly was terrible for Ding's chess sitting outside Moscow for 2 weeks before the tournament, and it didn't look good there, I must admit.
Yes, that would be a very nice thing for Russia anyway.
So, okay, so the games are quite full. I must admit, Noel Studer and David Anton's game has barely got going. It's only one move outside theory, and we're already nearly 2 hours into the session. So the line is very unusual, but even so, Studer is now more than 30 minutes ahead on the clock. And that's after, well, actually, no, he's had a bit of a think here, but he's finally using some time. But Anton can't be too happy, a position that he doesn't really know the details and also a long way behind on the clock. So it could be quite tough for him. We have had a move from Michael Adams, by the way, and after G5, that move was B4, and it was taken. And I presume now Adams is going to go straight for the draw. That is, bishop takes b4, bishop takes, rook takes, losing his f4 pawn. Well, in fact, and taking on b7, and that looks like a dead draw. You could even, after gf4, you could possibly just take on d4 as well. But okay, this looks completely drawn after bishop takes b4. So this b4 was quite a practical choice by Adams. I'm not sure you had to take it, to be honest, but after b4, the idea, bishop, has he taken back with the bishop yet? No, he hasn't, but he will. And bishop takes, rook takes, and that will be a completely drawn rook ending. So we may have one game finishing quite soon. A bit of a surprise, and you might have some interviewing work inside 2 hours. Although they do have to get to move 40, but that's not so far away.
Yes, today we have our, we're thinking about inviting players for a special format of offline interview, which would have 10 questions to each of them. And we agreed on the fact that we would rather probably pick 1 or 2 games for analysis. And I guess the right person to choose would be you, picking up one of the most interesting, exciting games for an analysis, and perhaps other players would join us for.
Oh, you mean coming into the Zoom conversation to look at a game?
No. I mean, we also have one more studio for offline interviews.
Okay, right.
Yes, with a special format. Yeah, these are 10 questions to ask. Yeah, different questions. They are pretty funny format. Yes,
I think I've seen the list. Haven't you answered it already?
I did answer. And yeah, most of them. Yeah.
So they should play yours first.
Yes. The idea was that we invite players mostly for that interview, and perhaps we ask them to join our live studio analysis. Maybe only for those games which were the most exciting.
Right.
And
which doesn't include Adams. Yep.
Okay, that was my question, basically.
Right. Yes. So no. Already we've had quite a few moves, and it's all going very quickly. The pieces are leaving the board. Black. Well, if Black wants to save the D pawn, I guess you better. I suppose you could. No, there's no way even to make this a game. The rooks have come off. So rook, if he takes on f4, we take on b7. He'll attack our a pawn. White will attack the d pawn. They'll come off the board. And 1 against 1 is not very inspiring. They're speeding up now because really it's there's no point to muck around. So rook takes pawn played. Rook takes pawn. Yeah. I'd start with rook f3 probably here. I don't want to play d3 and allow rook d7 and accidentally lose my d pawn without winning the a pawn. So rook f3 played, and white is not mucking around. Rook d7, rook takes pawn, rook takes pawn. And this is one of the weaknesses, of course, of this system, in that they can't actually agree a draw here. So there's going to be a couple of pointless checks, I guess. No, Adams decides to cut the black king off. So, rook takes pawn, and black played rook. Oh, hang on.
They both decided to cut their...
Just moving around. Yeah, rook a2, rook d7, rook b2. There's nothing really going on. h3, h6, and they're just a few moves away from move 40 now. King h1. They could have repeated moves earlier. The real professionals at agreeing a draw early repeat moves as soon as possible. Probably king g1. Yeah, okay, they're now repeating moves, and king h1, rook a2, king g1 will be a repetition, but surely they can stop soon. They're move 38. So this is one of the weaknesses of the 40 move draw rule, in that I don't think anyone would criticize them if they just agree to draw now. But they've made move 40, and this game has been a draw. So the opening phase was quite exciting. I think Edward did pretty well in the French line, but Adams found himself slightly worse really very quickly. but he was very professional at steering the game to a draw. So maybe you don't need to go to catch up with him. I don't know.
Yeah, I will unfortunately have to go still to take them for an offline interview. Yes,
okay.
which will include this special format, 10 questions that you can actually find later on our YouTube channel, Biel Chess Festival. But I will join you once again after we finish this one.
Good one. Okay. Have fun. See you later.
Thank you. See you later.
So 1 game down and 3 to go. And certainly the big game, the game with Hari-Krishna and Vincent Kamer. Well, White did take on c5. Black decided not to save the light squared bishop. Take, and now f3 probably. Yeah, f3. So White's idea is simply to get a big pawn center, similar to the Bronstein sacrifice in the two knights defense, and just start rolling the pawns. And of course, it's quite rare that you're a piece down, but you've got the pair of bishops and your opponent hasn't. So that is a bit of a bonus. The problems will come for White when the pawns get to e4 and d4, because if you advance the pawns, you open up squares for the black pieces. So you're going to have to make sure that if you play d5, you can actually follow with e5. And I would rather suspect that White's going to play it more positionally, play e4, bishop e3, rook c1, perhaps even take some rooks off the board, and then slowly move those pawns forward. And yeah, it's going to be quite difficult for Kamer to play, remembering he's 20 minutes behind on the clock, so a bit over half an hour for 24 moves. So it plus 45-second increment though, so that is important. I should mention, I haven't mentioned before today, the time limit is 40 moves in 90 minutes. After move 40, you get an extra half an hour, and on every move you get 45 seconds increment. That's more than the average 30 because they feel that having the plexiglass between the two players makes it a little bit more awkward, and the players need a bit more time. So actually, Studer and Anton, they're starting to move along more quickly. So after c4, Studer just put his knight on d4, a6, bishop back, b5, bishop back. So now at least there's no knight c6 move, and queen d7. So black would like to play e6, and even if it's not equal immediately, it's going to be annoying. You probably will have to take on e6 and play, maybe try to play f4 and e5, but that allows the knight on a5 to come back, so that's not so easy either. So this position is simply very, very unclear. So yeah, the Spassky way of playing this position would be to just charge up the board with f4, and if e6, yeah, take and e5, I expect. The alternative is actually after e6 to allow black to take on e5 and then play d5 rather, and then play e5. But I think knight c6 pulling back would prevent some dangerous attack here. And there are players like Kamer who would just throw h4 in and just make it g6 a little bit weaker. Then if you play e6, you take, and you can go h5, and the g6 pawns are a bit weak. So that's also possible. So it's got to be something on the king side, and I'm guessing f4 just looks right. But Studer does have to calculate variations after e6, and yeah, take. Apart from e5, you may also have queen g4, although I think black will be very happy to bring the rook on a8 over to e8, doing something useful. So unless you can blow the whole thing open with f5, which you might be able to do, though it's risky, then I don't think that's so great for white. Still, the bishop on c2 in some of these lines is actually becoming an influential piece, which is some achievement. If black could sneak the pawn past e6 and sit on e5 without en passant, then black may well be doing quite well. The white knight would have to go back. Black would hopefully move his knight to d6 at some point. Although even then, it's not clear that black is actually better, but black is probably okay. So really complicated position. Yeah, Studer seems to know what he's doing, And Anton, well, he's a Grunfeld player. He knows you get positions like this sometimes, but I don't think this is one of the more pleasant ones. So yeah, the critical line will be f4, e6, takes, and now e5 or f5 or queen g4 or something attacking is going to be really, really annoying. Or even h4, I guess. Although if you do that, you might be allowing e5, and I don't really want to allow e5 the second time. Okay, so Hari, Krishna, and Kamar went a5, which doesn't seem terribly relevant, and the reply was e4. So bit by bit, this is getting a little bit more depressing for black. I don't think a4, well, a4 is not even protected enough. So what could you do? Queen b5 to play a4, maybe. Yep, and that looks decent. Or you could just bring a rook to the relevant square, but it's really hard to know which file is going to be more useful. So, and even which rook to move. So you'd love to have a rook on the d file because if they were going to go e5, but if they're going to go d5, you might want a rook on the e file to stop f4 and e5 later. So it's just not easy to hold back these pawns in the long run. In the short run, yeah, bishop e3, queen e2, king h1, rook c1, something like that. Hopefully a4 never happens when you're not looking. And yeah, you would think this would be better for white a little bit, but how much is very, very hard to judge. So our other game, the Nightich game, we haven't actually had a lot of progress. Nightich got what looks like a very nice position, and then he decided to play h3, rook ac8, king h2. And as I was told as a junior, if someone, especially if they've fianchettoed on the king side, if they play h6 and king h7 or h3 and king h2, it's because they don't have a clue what they're doing. And it's very rare that the king actually turns out to be that much better on h2 than it would have been on just a simple king h1. So here, again, I don't think that Wojciech has anything much to fear. I'm wondering if he should put his rook on c4. Yeah, he can really put the rook anywhere, but yeah, rook c5. I don't like the fact that you might be attacked with bishop b4. Although, does that lose a pawn after rook c2? Probably not a pawn. Oh, maybe rook d2, take bishop. Well, it's messy actually. So rook c5 is probably playable. And with the king on h2, of course, it's tempting to go bishop g5, but I don't think that achieves anything much. Nightich has deliberately not put a rook on c1, so it doesn't get hit, and bishop f4 check is unlikely to be anything at all. So the reason I'd like to play rook c4 or rook c5 is maybe to play f5 at some point. I'm not sure that's going to work so well, but yeah, rook c5. If rook c5, bishop b4, rook c2 actually works, then oh, but actually I forgot you're losing d6 and e5, which is a hassle as well. So no, black should be fine here though. I don't think there's any problem for black at all. Nightich's last two moves, so are a clear indication that he's going to sit on this position and hope that everything works out okay. Aha, so Studer did come up with h4 after all that. And yeah, the question is really, has after h4, is e6 going to be good, or do we just take it and queen g4? There's okay, he's ruled out the f4 e5 plans, he's ruled out the f4 f5 plans, but yeah, so take, yeah, if you go e6, takes, queen g4, followed by h5, it could be a little bit scary. Remembering black can take on d4 to relieve the pressure, but I really don't want white taking back either with pawn or with bishop, to be honest. They both look very scary for black. So yeah, h4, Studer's h4 is just a a good Kamar style attacking move, and it makes Black's life that little bit harder. I doubt that there is any choice. He has played e6, so Anton didn't muck around. e6 almost immediately. And okay, if you do not take, then Black will be thinking about e5. Well, okay, right now the d5 pawn is hanging. And all right, if you play f4, ed5, e5, sure, but you could have done that without h4. So I don't really see why you want to do it that way. So I'm sure that's not his intention. That he'll take on e6. So I wonder, can you play queen g4 first, or is there not a lot of point to that? Actually, it means that after rook ae8, we could just throw h5 in, but yeah, there's f5, there's some counterplay. The downside of taking on e6 is allowing that knight on a5 out. So queen g4 does look promising. In fact, Black perhaps should have played e5, because I think White would need to take it en passant, and here White has extra options in things like queen g4. So perhaps that wasn't so bright to play e6 first, unless he's planning to sneak past and go to e5 in 2 moves ahead of 1. And he felt if he played e5, it would definitely get taken en passant. One more move from Kamar, by the way. Knight b6, decent idea. He wants a4 after all. And where's he going to put his bishop? c2, I guess, and then d3. So the knight on b6 means that it's very hard to attack the d4 pawn, which is a weakness. So bishop e3, a4. There's also some ideas of taking on e4, but if bishop e3, but I just think you're going to be a pawn down after all that. And the knight on b6, although it keeps the bishop on b3 under control, the bishop on b3 also keeps it from advancing further. So I'd be very happy with Hari Krishna's position, and his clock certainly helps as well. And one more move in Wojciech's game, and he played the move that I was sure was not very useful in bishop g5. So there you go. What would I know? And well, I guess bishop d2 is answered by queen takes on b2, and that looks like, oh no, because knight e7 check will happen. So yeah, bishop d2 looks possible. So bishop d2, maybe rook c2 then. I'm a little bit scared about getting trapped, but perhaps I won't be. So all in all, Black is comfortable. I don't think Black has a problem. And the longer it goes on with Nightich mucking around, of course, the more chance Black has of actually achieving something, though. Again, I'm not sure. If you could play rook c5 safely, then you'd be going okay, but that depends on bishop b4, rook c2, and I'm just not sure about that. So all in all, yeah, no problems for Black, but also no real problems for White, I think. Back to Studer against Anton, and he quickly took rook and queen g4. And I suspect the psychology behind that is he's ahead on the clock, and he's calculated these lines. He was going to play this after e5, and after e6, rather than hunt for some more sophisticated way of playing, he's decided he's happy with his main line, so why not play it quickly? And I can understand that. So rook a8, h5, and I can imagine Black would be a little bit scared. Queen f7, we take on g6, or even play e5 first. Yeah, that's going to be a bit of a worry. Remember, that's bishop sitting on c2, out of the game. It could be in the game soon. So, yeah, it's definitely promising. And of course, remember that White does have f4 ideas here because the e4 pawn is safely protected. So, and even rook CD1 could be useful at some point. So all in all, yeah, it's fun for white. I don't know if it's objectively better for white, but it's not easy to defend these attacks, as well, Nightich found yesterday when Kama really went for him. So all in all, it was pretty good. By the way, I haven't mentioned previously the prize money for this triathlon is 10,000 Swiss francs for first place, 7,500 for second, and 5,000 for third, and 500 if you come in last. So descending prizes to 500 for last. But of course, some of the players will be getting appearance fees and various other conditions. So it's a little bit better than that for if you're coming last. So I think it's actually a comparable prize fund to the Tata tournament in Vaikanze, where almost all the money goes in appearance fees, and I think it's about 10,000 euros for first place, but that may have changed or may change in 2020, I'm not sure. And so while we're having all the players having long thinks, and they're, well, some of them won't be able to do that for too much longer, because 3 of the players are down to about half an hour on the clock, and they are Anton, Kama, and Nightich. So they will have to speed up at some point. But yeah, this Biel Chess Festival has changed a lot. Of course, this year is exceptional with no spectators, with very few players in the open, in an open where everyone's spread out on tables far apart from each other. But if you go back to the 1980s, for example, it was the mezzanine level of the Congress House where the studio is for this broadcast. That was the analysis area. It normally is the analysis area, but except this year. And back in the 80s, it was also, if you like, a gambling den. People would play blitz chess for very high stakes. I think the highest I recall was a match at 1,000 Swiss francs a game. But I think it was involving Eric Lobron, but I stand to be corrected on that. I also remember an incident in the mid-80s where Joseph Klinger, the Austrian player, won more money than he was supposed to, and at some point one of his opponents and 2 friends came around and beat him up. I don't think they got the money back because Klinger managed to call a friend, and but he was badly shaken up after that incident. So there, yeah, it was. I also got hustled myself. I took on, I think, was it Emir Dizdarevic, one of the Yugoslav players? A lot of Yugoslav players came to Biel. It was quite easy to travel back on a Yugoslav passport. They weren't part of the Iron Curtain, behind the Iron Curtain. They were sort of a halfway house between the West and the East, and therefore visas to both parts were much more easy for them. And Dizdarevic, I think, lost the first 2 deliberately, and then decided that the clock should stay on one side permanently, and I was too young and naive to worry about that sort of thing. And then gradually the table started turning, and I couldn't quite work out why. And eventually, after about 2 hours of play with me, I thought I was 30 Swiss francs down, or maybe 40, and he thought I was 50 down, and we had a bit of an argument over where it stood. And so I had the good sense to sort of break my losing run, and this wasn't 1,000 a game, by the way, or anything like it, and get out. And Dizdarevic was so keen to have his bunny stay there that he offered to just agree that I'd lost the amount I thought I'd lost, but I paid him out what he thought he'd lost, and escaped, and never again got involved with a genuine hustler. I mean, I was very decent at blitz play back then. I won a Grandmaster Blitz tournament in Yugoslavia, in fact, in the same year that this incident happened, or almost the same year. But Dizdarevic was full of he was streetwise, and he knew exactly what he needed to do to beat someone who was perhaps playing very well, but not as fast as him, and also not alert to little things. So Anton has moved, by the way, and he's played rook a8. the days of 1,000 Swiss franc stakes games disappeared by the end of the 1980s, and it was a pity in a way, but you could still see people playing for money even in the 90s. But what has changed with Biel, especially in recent years, has been the number of junior players who have come to the tournament, and I can even include Carlsen and his friends as that sort of group. But also last year, I believe there was a big delegation of Koreans, and the parents of all these kids tend to have to sit somewhere, so they tend to sit on the mezzanine area, or some in the lobby. But it's very easy to sit there and wait for your child to come down after they finish their game, and as a result, it's less exciting and a little more peaceful around there. The analysis area, I think I mentioned earlier, when Magnus came with a group of his friends, you could often see Magnus Carlsen in the corner analysing a really low quality game with one of his mates before they all went off to the lake or somewhere like that, and just enjoyed being in Biel. So yeah, Biel, the festival was up around the 1,000 player mark in a lot of the 80s tournaments, and it decreased for a while. The first 10 years of this century was not, the numbers weren't that high, but they started building up again, and I believe there were about 800 players last year. So they were getting back to their old glory. Yeah, one of the disadvantages of Biel, of course, is it's in Switzerland, and Switzerland is super expensive, but it still attracted lots and lots of players because it's such a nice place to holiday. Your partner's always got fun things to do if they don't want to play in the or watch the chess, and it certainly is well, just very, very pleasant to you used to be able to camp next to the lake if you wanted to. That saved a lot on the accommodation costs, but that's not so easy anymore. There has been a bit of development in the years since then. Yeah, well, the Biel Festival, yeah, it has continued 53 years. It did start rather small, but it started getting good players very early on. In the late 60s, it managed to get Jan Timman, and then it got stronger and stronger until 1976. It hosted an interzonal, and that was just an absolute super tournament, which Larsen won. But the people who came equal second, I think, Petrosyan and Tal and all sorts of very strong Soviet players of the time. And after that, the list of winners just includes everyone who was anyone around then. So you have your Miles and Nunn, you have Korchnoi after his defection. You have Polagaevsky, Hort, Hubner. It's really, and then of course later on you get Ivanchuk, Karpov, Shirov, Gelfand. So yeah, someone's actually sent a cheerio, I believe, to me of Valentin Arbakov. I remember him. All the best. I hope you're doing well in these strange times. Yeah, you meet a lot of old friends in Biel as well. In fact, one player who used to come regularly to Biel, Yanni Belevsky, he was a computer programmer in Belgrade who had a nervous breakdown and became homeless, but he still loved his chess and would come to Biel and live basically out of a shopping trolley where he had a gas heater, and he would cook, but he would always offer other people some of his food. He'd go to the markets and get leftover fruit and offer it to other people. He spoke multiple languages. The Biel newspapers in 3 languages he'd offer to translate. And one day he said to my wife, Kathy, when I get back to Belgrade, I'm going to apply to emigrate to Australia. And the advice was it wasn't going to happen, but 6 months later, Yanni turned up in Australia, and he's been living there ever since. And when I asked him, why did you choose Australia, or the chess scene is so much worse, he said, yes, but it's much better to be homeless in Australia than to be homeless in Belgrade. And it was hard to argue with that, especially if you're in the right part of Australia. It doesn't get very cold. And of course, since then, Johnny's gone on his feet extremely well. But yeah, I used to see him year after year in Biel, and then suddenly I saw him in Sydney. And so we have Dina, I believe, and she's finished talking to Adams and Edouard. So how's it going, Dina?
Yes, we have just finished interviewing both players, and it was very nice actually. That, well, in general, when players finish their game in the draw, they are more or less in a good mood, which is pretty important for us to get them some moment of theirs for the interview, live or offline. Yes, and we did ask them 10 quick questions, which were, most of them were regarding chess and also some general stuff. That's a rather fun format, and I invite you all to find out more about it on our YouTube channel.
And yeah, so any really surprising answers?
Yes, there is one question that that is very particular. What does it mean to you to be a chess player? And Mickey Adams said that it means someone who is constantly looking for a job and can't find it.
As someone who's been asked often what my real job is, I can sympathise with that. Yeah, and what about Edouard? Any surprising answers from him?
Wait a moment. There was one. There was something, I cannot recall exactly. What was interesting is that when I asked them first question, it's yeah, this one, I get it now. So I asked them, what is your favorite square on the board? And Romaine's answer was pretty special. He said the one that gives the checkmate.
Indeed. So yeah, it's definitely changing every game though. But okay, so Studer has just played a very ambitious move. Instead of the obvious h5 on move 20, he has gone for e5. And obviously after bishop takes, he wants to go h5 and just break through there. But it's possible, I guess. Once we get e5, I'm a little nervous there might be some exchange sacrifices with rook f5, but maybe they're not so scary. And we still haven't rescued our knight. So you could play knight c6 here. Actually, taking it with the knight would be good. So knight c6. If we go f4, you can go knight e7. And that's really where we want it to come to f5. That way you're not giving up the exchange. There's still h5 though, I guess. But I don't feel the attack is so scary once you've played e5 so early. But feels like Black's got more defensive chances. And I still don't know what was wrong with h5. I hadn't found a clear answer to h5 at all. So I really feel as if that's sort of a missed opportunity. But well, it's ambitious. I mean, Studer was probably looking around for a forced win, and well, maybe he's found it, but it doesn't. No, I mean, after bishop takes h5, could we just throw our queen on g7? It's a new square. Oh, you do have knight e6 then. Okay, there's some tactical problems. So it could be good, but it's probably unnecessary. And I have to say, Arkady Nightich is playing extremely poorly. After king h2, bishop g5, f3, the last three moves just do not improve your position at all. I'm really surprised to see a player make their position worse rather than keep it steady when they're working out what to do. And here, sure, f3 is a move, but why do you want to play it? And yeah, black, I still want my rooks. Well, I guess it's against my rook c4. And you've overprotected e4, and that makes some sense. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, even rook c5 here is even more tempting than before. So bishop b4, can I now play rook c2 under good circumstances? Bishop takes here, and perhaps, yeah, now I have queen takes if I want on b2. Yeah, this is just, f3 has made things much, much, much worse.
So may I
Yep.
once again repeat? So this the last moves, you mean h3, king h2, and f3, in your opinion,
Yeah.
not only slow down, but even get the position
Weakening.
worse. Okay.
Yeah. He had a perfectly nice position, and he's just made his king worse. And okay, rook c5 has been played. So yeah, here the question is bishop b4. By the way, after bishop b4, you can't win 2 pieces for a rook immediately because of rook takes knight. So if bishop b4, rook takes knight, we can take with the pawn. And after that, e6 is hanging. Now, even here, bishop takes h3 might be interesting, but I don't think it's really working. So this is but that's not necessary when you've got rook c2. And yeah, rook c2 just looks great. I mean, sure, you've got bishop c3 to trap everything again, if you really want to. So what? I'm looking for some big sacrifices on c3, to be honest, and then queen b2. But is this really okay? So what if we do sacrifice on c3? So if you take with the knight, I think queen takes b2 wins immediately. So you have to take with the pawn. Queen b2, rook g1. In a worst case, I can play rook g2 and queen a1, though I feel like that's not really going to be as good as some other plan. But what if I go bishop check? You can take it, because I wanted to take on h3 then. Is rook d2 a useful intermediate move? Might be answered by rook b1, but I'm not sure. Yeah, something here is really dodgy. There's so I feel as if, yeah, rook c2 after bishop b4 is going to be very annoying. Now, black has to calculate it, because obviously after rook c2, bishop c3, you could get trapped in there. So you need to know for sure that you're going to get out, which makes me wonder whether a move like knight e3, yeah, but it's not stable there. We can do anything we like, and the knight, yeah, you're not even threatening to take on d6 because e3 is hanging. I don't know how to decoy the queen away, but maybe it's yeah, maybe that's not terrible. But again, the whole position for white shouldn't be terrible because it's so solid. But it's, yeah, at the moment, yeah, bishop takes d5 is quite a common sort of idea. And after you have to take with the pawn, you'd expect black to be a bit better there. Now, maybe this is a lesser evil. How does black destabilize this? a5, but no threat. a4, no. So that's not going to work. What do you reckon?
So rook c2, rook c3 was would it be rather positional sacrifice of the quality, or
well, you mean in this position?
And not here, but just the one that we saw just before.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, well, it's actually I was hoping it was going to win tactically, but I guess it is. I guess it isn't winning tactically by force. Yeah, I feel like we could take on d5 and play bishop f4, and if we could reorganize our queen and rook, we'd just be winning. But it's not that easy to do. However, okay, let's start with bishop takes, queen takes. I'm not sure queen takes is forced. Rook takes, bishop check.
And you have
king
to...
somewhere. You have to allow that with check. Rook here, queen takes pawn. Yeah, this is pretty good, I think.
Queen d1, I guess, the only move.
Yep. And have we already got 2 pawns for the exchange? So, yeah, this is... so let's play, I don't know, g6 or something like that. Get our king completely safe.
Yes, and could a5, a4, a3 be also a plan to
oh, absolutely.
enforce your position?
Yeah. I could also put my bishop on e3 and d4, and that could be very disruptive for that white rook as well.
So this bishop completely dominates the rook, right?
Well, I hope it does. I think if the queens come off, then this position is probably good for for white. Although not definitely, but yeah, I guess if I get my bishop on c5 and my pawn on a3, even that won't be good for white. But with queens on the board and your king safer than your opponent's king, that makes all the difference. Okay, surprise move here. Knight e3. Oh no, I mentioned knight e3 and queen b6. Okay, so the threat is to take on c3 now and just win 2 pieces for a rook. And you can't take on d6 because we swap and take on e3. So this is a bit sad. How about, well, you can move your knight, but where? Knight d5, again, bishop takes looks decent. And we don't even have to take it. Yeah, if you play, oh no, maybe we do because our queen's under attack. So knight d5, bishop takes. Yeah, here improving the position. Maybe start with bishop f4 check to try and get them to play g3 as well. Maybe play g6. Maybe play a5. Lots of little things to improve black's position. But it's not game over. It's just black has been making progress and white's been making, well, deproving his position, put it that way. So let's try another game.
Do you think there is sorry, do you think there is a kind of psychological moment when Arkady, having lost yesterday, is being in a perhaps slightly lack of confidence and trying to be more solid in order to do, as Betweenix suggests, better, not going to like to calm, hoping for draw. Draw is a good result after the lose. Yeah,
I think you're absolutely right. He just wanted to be solid, and in fact, he wasn't really being solid. He was making his life a bit harder. I first heard that theory when I was playing my first Grandmaster tournament in the Philippines, and it was a very long one. I think it was 13 rounds or 15 rounds, and I started really well, and then I lost 5 games in a row. And Averbach came up to me and said, you know, in Soviet Union, if we lose 1 game, especially if we lose 2, we immediately make a short draw and consolidate. And I said, I wish you'd told me that after 1 loss instead of after 5 losses. Yeah, it's good advice, except in a Swiss system tournament. And of course, most of my chess was played in Swiss system tournaments where if you lose, you get a weaker opponent. You just have to win. So there's no consolidating. But in round robin tournaments, yeah, it does make sense. And I think you're right. Arkady is trying to do that, but not very successfully.
And that's very interesting. I didn't see it from this perspective that it actually depends on the format of the tournament, because here it's no matter what result you do, you will have the same sequence of opponents, and in the end, the general number of points is that matters most.
Yeah. Okay, rook e1 played. That's sensible. It stops rook takes c3. He's still solid. Okay, how do we improve our position? G6, H5 looks fun. Also controls the knight. A5 looks fun. Is white about to play rook a d1? And if he does that mean you should put your rook on c6 or on d8? Very hard to know. I wonder if you could put your rook on d8 and try to play d5. That could open things up for the bishop. Yeah, there's a risk of opposite coloured bishops though in some of these positions. So, and the e-pawn could become quite weak on e5 when you play d5. So I don't think d5 is a genuinely strong plan. Okay, should we move to
Yes.
Studer? And Anton has taken up the challenge. He took that pawn on e5, and after h5, he's having a bit of a think. And Anton is down to just 18 minutes, which is not easy when your king's in trouble. And I think he's entitled to be very nervous around here. So Queen g7 allows knight e6, so that's no good. Queen f7 is pointless because we take on g6. So how do you guard that pawn? Very tricky.
Could there be an option of playing king h1 and on takes g6, rook g8?
Queen h5.
But you do not threaten to take it because you don't want to open the h file.
Well, there's a bishop sitting on c2, which means that I don't think you can take back and open the h file after. Well, queen h5 threatens the bishop, threatens to take on h7.
But wait, you also have the G2 pawn hanging.
Ah, this is the idea, right? Okay, that's
The only issue is that black cannot take on g6 with the rook because of the bishop on c2. So it's like both would be pinned in this case. But the only thing is that white would be with the pawn up.
Yeah, so perhaps white should, after queen h5, when the position's sort of frozen, play f3 and then get ready to take on h7, which I don't think black will easily be able to get out of. But I don't see a good move here. I mean, Anton must have found something, because why did he take on e5? He could have used that for defensive, that move for defensive purposes. Knight c6, hg, knight takes d4, give away the h7 pawn, play king h8, hope for the best.
So
not a lot of fun.
2 pawns in it.
Yeah. Well, you are up 1 at the moment, so there's something to be said for that. But gee, it doesn't look trustworthy. You're not even winning a pawn on d4 either, because the queen on g4 covers everything. So this is pretty bad. Rook f6, I presume bishop g5 is good. There's no rook f5s around here because g6 is too weak. Wow, I wonder what Anton intended, because right now he's spent 3 minutes, and yet his last move, he must have expected h5 to come next. He must have thought that was what the position he was going to get. And his previous move, he spent quite a while, I think. It was, 11 minutes on bishop takes e5, and then suddenly thinks again. That's very impractical play. Wojciech, just quickly back to Wojciech and Nightich, because Wojciech decided to play bishop f4 check, get g3 to be played, and now he can choose between just going back to g5 or taking on e3, and both of them look like they're going to be quite promising, but bishop e3 is opposite bishop, so I suspect that's not really going to happen, especially with his opponent in time trouble. Okay, the big game. We have actually neglected the Hari-Krishna game for a while. So it looked really scary for Kamar, but it's sort of consolidated. Rook c8, bishop d3, and now a3 played. Okay, I guess the big decision is whether you go b3 or not. And since rook c3 can be answered by bishop d2, I would think he probably wants to go b3. You don't want those rooks opening up too much. And also the knight on b6 is horrible after b3. So queen d7, bishop up, rook c3, rook d1. And, okay, I don't see white's immediate threat. Maybe it's king h1 and d5 at some point. But then again, black's not doing anything either. So, he played king h1. Oh, rook d8, king h1. Okay. And Hari-Krishna is keeping the position 20 minutes ahead on the clock. It's a lot of fun for white to play. How does black put a piece on a good square? It's like he's stuck on the 3 ranks apart from that rook on c3. Any ideas for black?
Yeah, it's interesting because from the one side, we have this outstanding outpost on the c3, but the other hand, this is this center that looks like dominates all the position.
Yeah, the c3 outpost I don't trust because at any moment I can go bishop d2.
Absolutely.
And
well, if
send
for
you
some
back.
reason, if there would be a possibility to bring the knight there, it would be really great, but there's no direction there for now.
Well, one idea for white is d5, and I would really like to play bishop c5 with black, and maybe I will, but bishop d2 does trap the rook there. So then you've basically traded all the dark squares, but won back the exchange, and it's hard to judge that, but I have a feeling it might be a decent amount of counterplay for black, but maybe not. Okay, so
I guess at some moment, if anyway these pawns become dangerous, black should consider giving knight away in change of these 2 pawns, and then if the pieces configuration is good enough, black could get even some advantage out of it.
Yeah, although you're down 3 for the piece, and the most you're going to get a 2, I guess. So it's going to be hard to get enough.
Let's mention we have our queen on c8, and well, of course, everything is concrete, but I think black could be preparing for this one as a way for consolidating the.
Yeah, and we can look at it a different way. How does white advance? Sure, you can play d5 and allow bishop c5, but what I really want is d5 and e5, and I don't know that I can get both of them, and I certainly can't get e5 without allowing knight d5. So it's not so simple just to push the pawns. I'm guessing that at some point there might be a f4 and f5, which but that gives black a target on e4, and I don't want to ruin my pawn structure. Maybe I've got the Nightich problem of really wanting to just be absolutely solid instead of actually doing something. But okay, Hari-Krishna, it looks to me like when he played bishop b3, he in the opening, he was looking for this sort of sacrifice, and he knows this sort of position is very, very hard for black to defend against as long as white is patient and plays well. By the way, just a little problem here for white. White could have tried bishop b5, but unfortunately rook takes e3 would have turned the tables and won for black. So bishop b5 is just losing to rook takes bishop, which wasn't going to happen, but okay. So king h1 and game continues. And Kamar, yep, burning time.
No, this is a very big difference. 38 minutes versus 9 is pretty dangerous for black.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And I just wanted to see how long he's been thinking. 10 minutes already, poor old Kamar. So yeah, that's not promising at all on this one move. Okay, let's go back to Studer, because Anton has found a defense we didn't really look at. And that was after h5, he took on d4 with the bishop and then pulled back with knight c6.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Now you keep things way safer after we swap the danger from the black squares.
Indeed, you don't mind hg6 and gh7 because your king will be safe on h8. E5 is not a threat. Is knight takes d4 a problem? Let's see. Let's try hg6, knight takes d4, pawn takes here, king h8, probably pawn takes back. And it's not impossible at rook g8. Oh no, rook g8 doesn't work because you've got a queen check. Rook e7 and rook g7 could be a little bit annoying here. Black has very good queenside pawns, so I'm not sure white can really afford an endgame. So this is not enough for me. Okay, let's get another piece in the attack. I don't know if it's going to help, but let's see. Rook, instead of hg6, rook d1, knight d4, rook d4, and queen g7. And this was the sort of thing I was having trouble breaking down. Now, maybe I can... You see, if I take twice on g6... Oh, the queen's protected. I can take twice on g6. In other lines, bishop g6 would be met by rook to f6 here, but the e8 rook is hanging. So in this position, you have to move your rook away.
You can also try something like e5, but there is just rook d7. Probably doesn't work. Yeah.
a5. Oh yeah, rook d7 looks pretty good. Rook d7, rook e7.
No,
oh yeah, it'll be good.
Discovery attack.
Yeah, I'm not sure where, but it's even bishop e4 is going to be pretty good.
Yeah. So many pawns.
So rook e7 here. Is this really good for white or not?
White can try come up with queen h5 and rook g4.
Indeed. So let's see. Queen h5, rook f6, let's say.
And
rook g4, king f8. And how do we play?
For starters, we have bishop e4.
Okay.
And then where to move your queen? h6 is the only move?
Yep.
Well, it looks like such a big domination for white, even if I play queen c5, pinning the rook.
Actually, why did I move my bishop? Why don't I get another piece in the attack?
Yes.
With rook d1.
Absolutely.
Now it's going to be scary.
No, it looks already very dangerous for black.
Yeah, I guess you could play bishop d5, but then maybe bishop e4. It's not game over, but it's pretty good. So I think Anton... Oh, rook cd1 played. So I should go back to rook cd1, which is here. And... yeah, the rook cd1 and then bringing the other rook in also has the attraction of just using more attacking pieces. So I reckon here, after knight takes, rook takes, we might even be able to just double on the d file. It's going to be almost impossible to oppose it. I wonder if you can, after knight takes, rook takes, play bishop d5. I take on g6 and then what though? Same sort of problems as the other line. I'm not sure the bishop on d5 is anything special. So all in all, yeah, it's better for Studer. And the local lad looks like he might be playing a good attacking game. I'm just scared to predict a win for him because he's had so many good positions.
Yes, absolutely. It looks like a kind of a curse because he's getting very exciting positions from in the beginning. It's such a big advantage, and yet every single round he goes out of the playing hall pretty frustrated.
Yeah. Okay. Wojciech and Nightich. I think Wojciech has settled for something a little bit less than he should have, perhaps. Okay, he's just played after queen b6, rook e1, bishop check g3. He took on e3, queen took, and then queen c6. So he's thinking that if he can play d5 under good circumstances, then white's king will be quite weak. But I find it hard to imagine white having a real problem here because rook ad1 is played exactly. So after rook ad1, when you play d5, sure, you can take back with the bishop. But if you don't have rooks coming in somewhere, it's not going to be a big enough attack. And he's traded in, what should have been a really nice advantage for something where white just has to find good moves and he'll probably make a draw. D5 will take, and if bishop takes, we can either play king g2 or rook f1. and both of them look okay. Sure, white's position looks a bit horrible, but it's conceivable white can go g4 and king g3 and actually have a relatively safe king. There simply aren't that many pieces left on the board. And maybe at some point some exchange attack on c3 to invade on the second rank, but white's next move can be rook d2. And then it's just really, really solid. So I think, unfortunately, Wojciech has, whatever he had, he's let it slip a little bit. Okay, and our big game came out, well, this is a game of just absolute patience. Queen e8, bishop back, bishop f8. It's possible they're both setting up for a new game of Fischer Random, but probably it doesn't hurt to get out of the way. Now, we're not really allowing a knight into d5, are we? I was thinking some knight d5, take, swap queens and rook c2 and get a past a pawn, but it's hard to believe that's that great.
At least this would be a kind of situation, what I mean, that I imagined once white plays d5. In this case, it would be pretty reasonable to give back the piece, because the activity of the pieces, the black pieces, would be more than enough to compensate the final f3 pawn. Yeah.
So d5 here is probably not that bright. It would allow knight takes d5 and queen e2 and rook c2, I guess. So what is white to do? Well, rook fe1 looks healthy. And at one point I was thinking e5 and queen e4, but it's reasonably easy to stop that. Just g6, and I don't see how white's dark squared bishop is ever going to come in and attack the king. And if we play f4 here, I suspect black will take on d3 and take on e4. And then there's the dream of getting a knight to c3 may actually become a reality. So you really don't want to play f4.
Exactly.
So a few more moves in Studer's game. I guess Anton has to move along quickly. No, it's not the main line. Let's see. Knight takes, rook takes was played. Then queen g7 and pawn takes pawn. And this is more or less what we looked at before, isn't it?
It was a little bit different, but yes. Now the question is, what are the alternatives for Anton?
Well, if you play h6, then the pawn on g6 is like a nail in the knee, and it's going to be horrible. For example, after h6, I think I'll go rook d6 to stop bishop d5 getting away for free, and then I'll double on the d file. Oh, hang on, there is a c3 pawn hanging. Maybe I have to be a bit more careful. Maybe I should double on the d file. But anyway, h6 leaving that pawn there is just not an option. So I think he has to take on g6, and he did. And Studer has not taken back, but I guess he will take on g6 with the bishop, because queen takes is entirely wimpy. Why would you even bother attacking if you're going to play like that? So, okay.
He did take with on g6.
With the bishop? Or not? Not yet.
Not yet, yeah.
Not that I can see, yeah. But okay, that will come. And this rook e7 and queen h5. And it looks pretty bad. Is there any trick here? There is a trick.
Bishop g6, you mean?
In the position after queen h5, you can try rook f5, but actually that loses to rook d8 check. I'm hoping for bishop takes rook, queen takes g2, but unfortunately rook d8 refutes that. So, yes. But it's strange. I mean, why is he spending time on bishop takes g6? Does he even have an alternative? Maybe rook ft1? Yeah, I guess rook ft1's not bad. There's both bishop d5 and bishop d5 looks like the way to neutralize that. So take on g6 and think later. Very strange. Hari Krishna is still thinking, and so is Wojciech. So let's stay with the Studer game. That is not the position, sorry. This is the position, and Studer is still thinking. So have you had a chance to talk to Studer here?
Well, yes, he did join us for a couple of times, and I also talked to him outside. Yeah, he's it's always nice having seeing the player who is being totally frustrated by the result and yet very polite and rather talkative coming to the studio, joining us. Yes, and
so he's really frustrated, is he?
Yes, he is absolutely, but he did not refuse giving the analysis. And well, actually, he does get pretty good positions, and then at some point something goes wrong. So sometimes it's a blunder, sometimes it's a misevaluation.
Yeah, I think I had contact with him before the tournament, and he really was quite optimistic. I mean, he said, what was it? My dream is to enter the top 10 in the world, and that may be way beyond what's possible, but I have this dream and I stick with it. And even though I have doubts, and I think he was really well prepared and expecting a much better result here than what he's got so far.
Yeah, he actually did train a lot during the recent time, and he also had several camps with his second, Marcus Rager, who we also had joining us in the studio. And yes, he's actually pretty optimistic, not only in his regarding his career, but in general at all. And I'm pretty sure this is kind of an approach that you need to have if you want to go high.
True. I mean, generally it helps to overestimate your position in chess, because then you take more risks, you attack more, and you don't suddenly go defensive when you don't need to. But yeah, it's a question of how many blows you can take. Well, here, to be honest, if he wins this game, he will be 50% in the classical tournament, which is far from terrible.
Yes. He will be back, and especially starting from not that high result in chess 960 and the rapid tournaments. I think he really needs to mark the point. It would encourage him.
But, yeah, he still needs to win one, of course. So, yeah, he still hasn't won this, and this is certainly better, I think, than any of the other positions he had, because his moves are easier. Yeah, bishop takes g6,
and
queen
he also
h5.
Has way more time than his opponent.
Indeed. So the only thing I can think he might be wondering about is bishop takes g6. Can we just play rook d8, or is there some disaster that could befall us? Probably not. Probably rook d8 is better than rook e7. And maybe we just have to double in, and you take the rooks off, and yeah, it's yeah, that might be easier to defend than the other line we were looking at with extra rooks on the board. He did take on g6, and the immediate reply was rook e7. So that is a little bit of a surprise for me. So was there a problem with rook? Oh, rook d8, queen takes e6. That's what I'm missing. Okay, now I understand. So rook e7 is necessary, and that means that, yeah, queen h5 looks pretty good. Oh, hang on. Yeah, rook e7. And yeah, we're going to double rooks, aren't we? Or queen h5 first. Queen h5 first, probably.
This is the position that we analyzed before, I believe.
Yeah, it is. And so, well, if I double rooks, you still can't go rook f6 because of rook d8. So that's definitely good. And if rook back, takes. Oh no, it's not. Oh, yeah, it probably is game over very quickly. But of course, you do have bishop d5. It's I'd be very tempted by rook ft1, to be honest. You know, queen h5, I can imagine is pretty good. I just want another rook in the attack. I feel as if black's not doing anything. Yeah.
Yes, actually, black cannot doesn't have any move. Like as long as we have our queen on g4, black cannot move his own queen.
Right, and he still can't go rook f6 because of rook d8. So it feels good. The only other move I was wondering about was some funny sort of queen g3 and rook g4 to change the order of the queen and rook. I don't know. It's possible, I guess.
It's pretty original. Yeah.
Oh, but you just go queen f6 and rook g7, so it's pointless. Unfortunately. So yeah, I want a double. I really want a double. Oh, can you then play queen f6?
Wait, is that a possibility? You go queen g3, queen f6, and then I maybe try bishop f7. And if you take with the king, I have rook f4.
Nice one.
And if you go on h8, I just bring the second rook h4.
Yeah, very nice indeed. And I can't get a rook to the g-file fast, which means that there's no mate or anything, and the queen should win easily. Yep, well done. So queen there, bishop f7 is good. And there's no way out, is there? No, it's a double check. There's no way out. Very clever. So queen g3 is interesting. It feels funny, but actually you can't stop us going rook g4. So that's going to be really unpleasant. I hope I'm mating with the material I've got. I wonder, after queen g3, is bishop f7 also a move? Probably not. Let's see. I was wondering if... okay, let's say you play a5. Originally, I thought bishop f7 immediately had the same idea. But now I'm not so convinced anymore.
You can escape on e8 as well, no?
Oh, can you? Oh, no, the queen's not hanging. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
My mistake. Okay, so yeah, bishop f7 is crazy. So is a5 for that matter. He's using up a lot of his time advantage here. But I guess there are a lot of incisive moves, and he actually wants to deliver the knockout blow this time. So I can sort of understand it.
Yeah, he has time, and he knows that it's probably one of the last moments that you need to think.
Yeah, critical moment indeed. Yeah, you're lucky if there's more than one win, but he may be thinking, okay, there's probably one clear way to win this, and I have to find it and calculate it. Okay, there's some action in Nightich game because eventually black decided to play d5, and he's played it. Takes, 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 and it looks like nothing, I must admit.
Which could be actually in Nightich's favor, because that would reassure him to a safe result before he goes for a blitz stay, which is tomorrow.
So yeah, rook takes on d5. White just plays rook e2 and then rook d2. Looks fine. And bishop takes. At least that forces you to play something defensive. Like, oh no, it doesn't. We could play rook d1 anyway. So it's got to be rook or queen takes. If queen takes, you've still got rook e2. Which looks okay, but maybe it isn't. Okay, let's have a look at queen takes. So, rook e2, queen d1. Now, maybe rook e1 is good here, but I was thinking rook d2, but I can take. If you take with the queen, I take on f3. If you take with the bishop, I think queen f1 is getting closer, but maybe not close enough.
Yeah, and then you just put the pawns on the opposite color, so that restrict.
I'm scared that something will happen here, but maybe it's not enough. Yeah, h5 or something, but probably
You
not
would
enough.
you would need to go g6, but then you weaken your own king safety.
Well, I was thinking h5, and if you take it, f5, but
And
you
even if
can
I do
wait.
not take, what is the
Sorry.
threat?
Oh, h4 and queen g2.
Aha.
And then I'm going to g5 you and queen h3 and queen h7 or something. Oh, maybe I have to bring my king up after your king's on h5. But you're going to get mated there.
All right.
So
I see it better now.
it's a bit scary. No, I mean, this is better for black. It's a question how much better for black. So, yeah, because if it's not winning, it's a draw then. You either find a winning plan or white will just consolidate. So you only need to win one pawn on the king side to have a winning position, because the 2 against 1 on the queen side, even with queens off, means that white will create just a single passed pawn, which the bishop will easily stop. But you will be able to create 2 connected passed pawns on the king side, which should be enough, as long as you can keep enough pawns on the board. So, okay, there's still no... Oh, queen takes d5 played. Okay. Rook e2 played, and it's going to be queen d1, I guess. Oh, sorry, no. Has it been played? No, queen takes, he hasn't played rook d2 yet. Rook e2, sorry. So here he's thinking. Because, yeah, rook e2, queen d1, the critical line probably now is rook e1. And are we actually making any progress here? Queen check, rook e2 again. And I don't, well, you could play something like queen f5, but here g4 picks up a whole tempo, unfortunately. So I'm not sure you're getting through. So has rook e2 been played? By the way, Nightich is very short of time, I think, yeah? It's
yes, he has only 5 minutes.
So that's not easy. His opponent's got nearly half an hour. Okay, we've had some action in what was supposed to be our top game, but it's really slowed down a lot. The game between our top seed, Pentala Hari-Krishna, and 15-year-old tournament leader, Vincent Kamer. And we left with them moving their pieces around strangely. They really are setting up for a game of Fischer random. Yeah, absolutely.
That's very, very frustrating when you see it, because you know that pieces on the back rank, on the first rank, this is something that you extremely do not advise at all to some players, at all beginners.
Well, I mean, if this were a game of Bughouse, then Hari would be asking for 2 knights, one to put on c1, one to put on a1. But it does look like a pretty unpromising Fischer random position, especially since the king's not in the middle of the 2 rooks. So it's different again. But okay, what's he doing? Is he going to go d5 or e5? So I'm guessing he's going f4 actually, and didn't want rook takes d3. So knight h5 played, and now is f4 not an option? Or is there some knight g3 check? No, probably not. So why don't we go f4 here? Where's the trick? Don't really see one. But he didn't do it. He played e5, just at a moment when a knight couldn't come to d5. So queen e6. And now is f4 a move.
And this is the position that we have on the board, but f4 did not play f4. And oh my goodness, Vincent Kamer has only 2 minutes on his clock.
It's not good. And so, yeah, in a way, what Hari-Krishna's been doing over the last 5 moves is very clever, in that he hasn't made a single forcing move that gives Kamer a free move. Kamer has lots of choice every time. And of course, if you're going to put your knight on h5, you've got to be prepared that it can get into trouble. So I presume here after f4, the answer will be queen h6, threatening knight g3. And that may be quite annoying because it also threatens the f4 pawn. So f4, queen h6. And are we doing anything at all there? Maybe not. So that's not great. Can I go g4 and bishop f5? Looks really dodgy, actually. So g4, knight f4. And I'm not sure what I'm doing after that.
Something tells me this will be the game that we would like to have analyzed.
Oh, hang about. g4, knight f4. I completely forgot about, yeah, definitely, queen e4.
Yes, there is
You have to go knight g6. Oh,
and h4.
Maybe, then you'd have to vacate the f8 square for the knight. I thought I was going to be able to play f4 here, but I forgot about queen takes g4. So I thought this might be winning, but yeah, maybe h4 is good. And here...
Bishop e7, you say you have to go.
Yep.
But it looks like a total domination for white. h5, knight f8.
Yeah. I just need...
And d5? No, not d5 is not yet ready, but bishop...
Not yet.
Preparing
H2.
Somehow. Bishop h2, yes, that's what I meant. Or rook e1.
No, it looks fantastic, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't think he's going to play g4 because it's, well, actually, it's not bad, but he hasn't committed himself seriously yet at all. And we still don't have a move by Noel. That is weird. He is running down the clock a lot.
Trying to be a perfectionist in this position.
Okay, we've had a lot of action, though, with Wojciech. Because after queen takes d5, white went f4, which looks like a total disaster. Absolute disaster.
Yeah, that was just the moment we left this game that he made this move, yeah.
Yuck. Bishop c8, exactly. He wants bishop b7 takes. Bishop b7, rook g1. Are we going to take back? We'll take back, yeah. So if you play queen takes e5, we swap and go rook d2 check. Or if we want to be really fancy, we can even go queen d2 check and have fun. So queen e5 is losing. So he tried g4, and this has got to be fantastic for Wojciech. Has he got enough time to work it all out? Easily. So all he has to do is find the right way to play this. So he started with rook f8. Can't complain about that. Let's see. Does he have anything better? Probably not. No, okay, rook f8, sensible. And no reply yet. And Nightich must not be happy with this. Okay, so we've got rook f3, perhaps, coming. And if queen e5, rook f2 is probably good enough.
It's only 2 minutes. This is extremely dangerous.
Yeah. I'm not even sure you've got a move here. Bishop e5, rook f3 looks fantastic. Queen d2 loses a piece. Oh, it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. I guess it's possible he could resign here.
Yeah, and it all just because of f4, because otherwise it was pretty much safer than it was before.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Well, f4 made things much worse. So far in this game, he's played h3, f3, and f4, and none of them were great. But yeah, here it's not clear at all, is it, that you're getting through? We could start with g4, for example. I guess queen c4 is still promising, but f4 is the sort of move you do make in time trouble, where you calculate that well, you can stop the mate and you're going to win a pawn. Unfortunately, I guess he overlooked queen d2 check or queen takes and rook d2 check round here. Or maybe, yeah, because he couldn't go rook e2 because of queen h1 mate. So g4, rook f8, and he's played g5.
Yes, this is the move that we have on the board.
Okay, if rook f3 doesn't win, I will be very surprised. There's no tricks with taking on h6. No, not really. So rook f3, can he take on e5? Rook f2 check king g3, queen f3 check king h4, and there's no g5 attack because white's pawn's already on g5. So let's see. Rook f3, queen takes. We have to start checking, king here. So let's play another check. King up, and yeah, no mates, unfortunately. So I'm sure we haven't done it exactly the right way, but it's certainly, well, okay, you have to do this, I guess. So if there's no mate, then maybe white is almost okay. Check, check, take h4, maybe. No. Rook h3 doesn't seem to be mating. I could play queen d7, hitting fh3.
And protecting the e8 square.
And g7. And you have to go rook g3 then.
Maybe there would be an option of sacrificing the bishop, queen takes g7, take on h6, and trying somehow to maintain, like, in case, because the a1 square, they should be the only pawn is of the wrong color. So maybe there could be some hope here.
It's true. White would have to win all the pawns. It is technically winning if rooks stay on the board with a wrong a pawn, and it's also technically winning if black can get the pawn to a4, even if rooks come off the board and you put the bishop on b3, because eventually you stalemate them, and then it's then you take en passant, and when they play b3 or b4, and then you can win. So it's probably not enough, but I don't see a win after queen d7, rook to g3. This is my problem.
All right.
Oh, sorry, I haven't played queen d7 yet. Queen d7, rook g3, because rook f2 check, king g1, and what have I got?
Strangely, nothing.
Is that really true? Yeah, queen f7, queen g7.
You could try rook c2, maybe. After that.
Oh, check. I have to check to. Oh, okay, let's try. Although queen d1 is not even a threat.
Right, you have bishop e1 just.
So if we take here, you could check on. Oh, maybe you can check now on here. King up, check, but there's still queen f6, and I'm still not doing anything. So yeah, he's squirming a lot. It's definitely a clever plan. Okay, Studer finally did move, by the way, and the move he played was rook e1. And the reply was bishop d5. And now I really want to go queen g5 and threaten rook takes bishop, but I can't because of rook f5 as usual. So our old plans come into play, but I'm not sure the rook's so good on e1. So we could go queen h5 or we could go queen g3. Both of them look very decent. Unless he's planning to use the other rook. What if he just goes rook e3 and rook h3 and all that sort of thing? or rook g3, but that's slower than queen g3 and rook g4. So it doesn't look quite as good. Anyway, this feels like rook e1 wasn't a bad choice because he does have another piece in the game and black has not really threatened it. He's played bishop d5. So Studer is still doing really well. Okay, so the Wojciech game, we have had rook f3 played and white is now thinking. So let's see, queen takes e5.
Anyway, it's the only move, right?
Yeah, well, queen e2,
Yes.
queen e2, e4, and there'll be checks on the dark squares. And okay, so no, but actually you're blocking your own bishop in. So we take on h6, you check on d6. Oh, then you can take on h. Oh no, then rook g7. Okay, let's have a look at that. Queen e2. I don't think that's lost. So e4, pawn takes pawn. So I can only see one good check here. Oh, but it's a really good check because you can't go to h1 and you can't even go to g3 properly, I don't think. Can you go to g2? So which piece to g3 is the question? Not an easy answer.
Let's try both. Let's try queen and queen takes h3.
Queen rook. H2. You have to.
You prefer the rook?
Yeah, queen h2 is my problem. Maybe the rook. Okay, let's try the queen first. So queen check. King h1.
Take. Yeah, sorry, I think he did take, judging by the position of the webcam.
Oh, he took on e5. Okay, excellent. Okay, so let's see. So rook check, king up. Well, apart from queen f3, rook f3 is a repetition, and rook g2 doesn't really look like mate, I don't think. Take.
And rook check. Rook f2 check.
Hang on. Okay, what about this? Because I don't think you can go to h4. But you can't go to f4 because of queen f3. But I was thinking after king here, can I lure your king into a mating net with queen here check?
Oh, you just win, or just win the queen?
Well, queen g3, pawn takes pawn will win a queen, and bishop c8. But no, I'm more worried about the king moving up the board. So let's say starting with this. Oh, but you've still got bishop c8, but then is it? Oh, yeah, it's going to be mate. Bishop c8.
Queen f3, queen h3.
Yeah,
king
exactly
h5,
right.
King g6 is.
Queen f7, yeah?
Yeah, yep. And otherwise you.
So both mate. Wow. So Nightich might be mated. I mean, okay, he's played rook f2 check, king here. I didn't see the queen f2 check, but that is in when I was analysing earlier. But the closer you get to the position, the easier it is to see things like that.
Yeah, and, rook g2 has just been played.
Yeah, okay, rook so Wojciech has seen it. Is there any point in playing king h4? No, well, at the worst, we swap the queens and take on g1, so it's absolutely pointless. Pawn takes g5 is probably completely made anyway.
And
so
king h4 and
then pawn takes queen f2.
Yeah.
Yeah, not pawn takes pawn. Although even that might work, but okay, you don't
king
need
h4 has already happened.
Yep, and now I think even takes on g5 is winning.
Queen f2.
Queen takes and then queen f2 and queen g3, g5 is probably working.
Yeah, he's just played queen f2.
He has played queen f2. Okay, that's better than taking on g5. If you take on g5, we might... Oh, no. I don't know what, actually. Yeah. Okay. Queen f2 is cleaner, I guess. And this is going to be a win for Wojciech. So suddenly he leapfrogs Kamar.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, let's... well, you may have to go off and interview these when he finally resigns.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's quickly go to the Kamar game because a lot has happened here. Did he actually go g4? He did play g4. So knight f4. Oh, hang on. No. So e5, queen e6. He started with queen h4. Okay. We were looking at g4 immediately. Queen here, g4. So knight f4, queen takes rook. My goodness. Queen h4 was just a double attack. So he's going for... Kamer's going for a mating attack. A very, very unlikely mating attack. Rook f2, rook f3, queen a8. That's clever. Very clever indeed. Takes. Queen g4. This must be lost because if you can't get to the long diagonal, you're gone. So rook g1, queen h5. I think Kamer's just playing on. Right now, he's only the exchange down, but it's the exchange and a lot of pawns. So queen e4, I guess, here covers everything. And you have queen h7 whenever you need it. Oh, but he didn't play that. He played rook e1.
I believe the game between Wojciech and Nightich has just finished, so I may have to go. May
Yes.
I ask you... Oh, it hasn't yet. They are sitting. Yeah, may I ask you, would you like to have this one analyzed, or better just pick
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, there were 3 really good games today. Obviously, Noel's game, which I think he's going to win, and Hari's game, although that, in a way, that wasn't as exciting as the Wojciech game. So let's go the Wojciech game and the Studer game, if we're going to have 2.
Okay,
Hari has just won, by the way. So you better hurry away for a series of interviews.
All right, so just confirm me which ones we would more likely to prefer having analyzed.
Radislav as win and Noel's win.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So see you soon.
Okay, bye. So just to repeat, Hari Krishna is now the clubhouse leader. Oh, no, he isn't. He's been leapfrogged now by, he will be leapfrogged by Radislav Wojciech. So he is clubhouse leader on 18.5 points. Kamer is on 18 and Wojciech is on 16.5. But Wojciech looks like he will jump up to 20.5 because Nightich, well, it doesn't, they still seem to be at the board, which is really curious. But yeah, he must have resigned. And maybe they're just chatting. But okay, so 2 games are going to finish. So let us look at local lad Noel Studer headed for his possible first win over David Anton. So how did it happen? It was rook e1, bishop d5. We saw that. Queen g3. This was the idea we could have played before. Rook f6, rook g4 looks great. And the queen moved away. So there's a lot of bishop checks here. None of them are game over, but you could throw your rook in on e5 if you wanted. So rook e5 played, and now rook g7. How do we win this? Not easy. Well, there's lots of discoveries, and there's also things like rook h5 if you want. Actually, rook g5 threatens bishop h7 as well. So, yeah, I must admit, I like rook h5, I think. Is there any trick? Not really. So this game could be over as well. It could be that we're getting all the games finishing in a rush. Nightich has indeed resigned, and we just have 1 pair left at the table, Noel Studer and David Anton, and Anton is all sorts of bother. He's only got just over a minute on the clock. His opponent has about 7, and well, it feels as if there are plenty of good moves here. Rook eg5, that's a rare, actually it's more stylish, rook eg5, because then you've got 8 pieces on the g file, and even better, 6 of them are white ones. So you don't often get to triple on the g file when it's not open in front of your g pawn. So I'd appreciate that for aesthetics, and it might even win. The threat is bishop h7 check, and I can't see how he can protect the rook on g7 in any adequate way after rook g5. So Studer is just checking, but really it's got to be game over, and you can't even just return the exchange without probably getting mated. So Studer is that close to winning, and suddenly he will be up midfield instead of sitting at the bottom of the field. So we're going very soon to Radislav Wojtasek, or possibly to Pentala Hari-Krishna. Both of them are waiting to be interviewed at the moment, but they've got to set up the cameras. We have had some technical problems. Unfortunately, White did not play the stylish move. He played the winning move, Rook H5. So there's plenty of threats here after Rook H5. Yeah, and I don't see any way to even resist at the moment. Yeah, if we're worried, we've got Queen H4 as well, but yeah, bishop checks are also going to be rather good. So with no time and Anton just having nothing to do, well, he played Queen E7. Okay, so it looks like bishop F7 check. Oh no, sorry, bishop F7 check is not a double check, so I won't play that yet. So what will I play? Let's see. Rook H5 still looks decent, but you do have King F8. No, you don't have King F8 because of Queen B8 check. So Rook Hg5 is probably winning. He played Rook H6. He's planning Queen H4, I suppose, which looks pretty good. And Black's got to find a move. Well, yeah, Queen H4 is good. You're even threatening to double rooks now that your bishop's defended a strange way. So King F8, still Queen B8 mate, which might lead me to play E5 so that later I can play King F8 and Bishop G8. That makes a bit of sense. So I'd say E5 is forced. And now, yeah, it's not game over yet. Because if I go Queen H4, you go King F8. And then you've got no back rank mates on B8 or anywhere like that. So this is E5. It's just, oh no, we've had a resignation. So, okay, what is wrong with E5? Maybe he didn't notice it, or maybe his clock went very, very low. So I don't think it was a loss on time, but yeah, he probably thought 9 moves to make. It might be very difficult, but E5, I still don't see an absolute forced win. So E5, Queen H4, King F8. Hang on, if I try Queen H3, King F8, can I do something dramatic like Rook takes C4? Is that going to work? And then Queen C8 trying to mate. Or Rook C8. I'm giving away my bishop, but I think it'll be okay. So Rook takes. If you take it, I go Queen C8 and I'm mating you. So you have to take probably my bishop, let's say this way.
Ah, perfect.
And then I've got to check down here. And if you go to the second rank,
I think they both.
I should be winning. I wouldn't absolutely guarantee it, but it feels as if White is winning. Now maybe you're squirming out. I do have Rook E8 here, but you go Rook takes H7. So I haven't quite nailed that king. It's very, very close, but not quite. So, yeah, so maybe Rook takes C4 is not the go. Do we have something better? Because Rook anywhere is good. But I need a forcing move. Rook D4. Rook f4, rook g5. Rook f4 is interesting because you can't really take on g6. And my idea is after bishop e6, I throw this check in, and then after bishop back, then I throw this check in. So something like that. Anyway, Anton probably wasn't waiting, but I think Dina is just about ready. So let's hear from Dina. Oh, not quite. Okay, so let's give you the scores after the 4th round, and we have our leader is now Radoslav Wojtaszek on 20.5 points, and he is he is ahead of Pentala Hari-Krishna on 18.5 points, and notably these two are the top seeds with an identical rating of 27.19. So our top seeds have floated to the top. Vincent Kamar, after 2 wins and 2 losses in the classical tournament, is on 18 points. Michael Adams, who made a draw today, he sits on 16.5. And then we have to drop down. David Anton is still on 11. He lost. Arkady Nightich is on 10.5. He also lost. And Noel Studer wins and goes up to 10 points, and Romain Edouard sits on 8.5 after his draw with Michael Adams. So the field is coming together at the top and coming together at the bottom. But Wojtaszek, who came from behind, who led all the way in the chess 960 tournament before losing in the last round, is taking the lead here as well. And we're going into a blitz tournament tomorrow, which will really shake up the places, I would expect, because it's a double round robin, 14 games of blitz, each win worth 1 point. So if someone can really get on a roll here, they can make a break. You'd expect the young players, the faster hands of Kamar and Studer and Anton to be pretty dangerous, but all in all, it's going to be interesting. So tomorrow is the 3rd leg of the triathlon, and then we will have a free day, and then we will have 3 rounds of classical chess. So let's pass over to Dina, who is ready with her first interview after the games.
Welcome back to the live studio of the 53rd Biel Chess Festival. We now have our first resultative game here with us. We have Hari-Krishna Pentala, who has just won his game with white pieces against Kamar. Hari, can you take us through the critical moments of the game?
Thank you. Actually, I just tried something new. I mean, it's not new, but bishop d3 is okay. Yeah, I can move. So bishop d3 is the main move. Okay, I just wanted to play something which he's not familiar with, and I think I succeeded. I think here bishop b7 and bishop d6 is probably the main variation. I had one game long back in 2000, so I remember a bit. I think here White has some interesting ideas. I don't know why he thought for short castle 30 minutes, because I don't see any other move here. I mean, okay, bishop d5 maybe can be played, but it's just
giving the pair of bishops could be dangerous.
Yeah. So I think short castle. I calculated this position. Maybe bishop. I'm not sure if bishop d5 is losing here, but because this is also quite interesting. But he didn't really think here. The point is that bishop d5, knight d5, queen b3, knight c5, and queen e6. Okay, something like this.
And black doesn't get.
Like okay, after king h8, I like this position. Okay, I have 3 pawns. Of course, black is. I don't think black is much worse or something. It's just a normal position. Maybe it's easier to play with white, and he was also low on. I mean, not time pressure, but he was low on time. And here I thought bishop d6 is the move, because the idea is, okay, after e4, I take fe4, rook f1, queen f1, and yeah, so I consider, I mean, black should try something like this. Also, black wants to play queen c7 or queen b8 to make white play either h3 or f4. I think bishop d6 was probably the way black should have played here, and he went for this a5 a4 expansion. Initially I thought it's quite nice, but when I saw that I just get my pieces bishop to d3, bishop to e3, I think white is just doing good.
All right. We actually thought that that moment when white played h3, king h2, and f3, yeah, was kind of
When you start
little bit slow, but yeah.
here,
Right. Yeah. No. Not here. Not here. Yeah. This one. This is the moment, by the way, that's what looked like some kind of a setup for chess 960.
yeah, just two knights are missing on
Yeah.
but it's not possible because the king should be in the middle. But yeah, I get your point. It's I mean, I didn't do it on purpose, but probably this is good setup, since if I want to play f4, black will take rook d3, so I had to bring my bishop back, and also I had to bring my bishop back to g1, otherwise he might take rook e3 at some point. So yeah, here he made a he saw a very nice trick. That's after f4, take, check, and actually black is winning here.
And there is no defense after knight g4.
Yeah, I mean, I can go like this, but rook d6 and
rook h6 is coming.
It's lost.
Brilliant.
So this was the trick. I mean, he played innocently this move, knight h5, and then I realized, okay, knight g3. So that after e5, I think it's just bad, because this knight on h5 is doing nothing.
Right. Congratulations once again, and thank you very much for this analysis.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So welcome back, and we just saw Pentala Hari-Krishna explain his game and convincing win against the tournament leader Vincent Kaymer. We're going to have other players soon with analysis of their games, but the way he explained it, it was very smooth, and it did look as if White's solid pawn center was definitely a decent, was a very decent knight sacrifice on e6 just to get control. And as I said, it reminded me of Bronstein's Moscow Olympiad sacrifice of a knight in the two knights defense. But all you get is a rolling center, but it's just so difficult for the opponents to counter that. So we've had a query about what the Biel Triathlon is all about. It's called a triathlon because it involves a classical tournament and a rapid tournament and a blitz tournament. We've already played the rapid tournament. That was played on the second day. The blitz will be tomorrow, and all those scores will be combined. That is, in the classical tournament, it's 4 points for a win and 1.5 for a draw. In the rapid, it's 2 points for a win and 1 for a draw. And in the blitz, it's a normal 1 point for a win and 1/2 for a draw. Add up all the points at the end. If it's a tie, which really seems quite unlikely, but you never know, then the results in the Chess 960 will be important. And in that event, Hari-Krishna was leading ahead of Vincent Kaymer, and then Radoslav Wojciech. So that's the order of the three leaders if they do finish in a tie. So that is definitely a possibility, but you have so many score groups when there are half points involved, 1.5 points involved, 4 points involved. The final score is just very, very difficult to predict. It looks like it's a winning score is going to be yeah, 35 or something like that. So anyway, those will be added together. Tomorrow is Blitz, and let's go now. I believe we're going to Radislav-Voyage. Is that right, Dina?
Yet one more resultative game for today. We have now Radislav-Voyage, who has just won his game with black pieces against Arkady Nightich. Rade, could you please take us through your game?
Yeah, sure. So actually, I've played some games like this before, but only moves like Queen C6, Bishop D7, Queen C4 were played. So that was a way to finish the game, but obviously he had something other in mind. This I knew more or less that this position exists, and I knew that this idea Queen D7 and then Bishop D8, B6 or A5 is way to go. But after knight E3, of course, if I start with this, then he can simply take. So first I had to do Rook F8, and only here I go Bishop.
And now
D8.
Bishop on D2 doesn't let you take the pawn.
Yes, exactly. And this is the position he spent a lot of time. I think this one. I think it's around equal, but I have quite an easy plan, like Rook A8, then some Rook C5, and I threaten to take. I mean, here he went for some normal moves, and this is interesting moment where I spent like 60 minutes, because at first I wanted to do this, Rook C5, but then I wasn't sure what's going on here. Bishop B4, and now my problem was that after
it just takes on
Rook
D6?
C2, Bishop D6, yeah.
Okay.
This Bishop E5, and I didn't see a follow-up, and the problem is that after Rook C2 he has Knight E3, which is annoying because he protects everything. Yeah. Maybe I missed something, but then I decided to go for Bishop G5, which is just an active move, which shouldn't be bad. And after F3 now is different, because after Bishop B4 I have many moves. Like this is very interesting. Now Bishop C3. Now there's a problem with the rook, so I have to sacrifice.
Yeah, this one we saw, and after Queen B2,
yeah,
how to proceed after?
Yeah, but that's the well, first of all, Queen B2, and then after Rook G1, I wasn't exactly sure what's going on, but I thought that somehow I should have some play here.
We were also analyzing Bishop takes D5, Pawn takes D5, Bishop F4 here.
Yes. But I thought after maybe Bishop D5,
you do not have to take with the pawn.
Maybe he takes with the Queen, but it's very dangerous. I have Bishop E3, like many moves. Also, this is possible. This and Rook G2, although now he takes. Yes,
this is kind of a line that we did analyze, and it was interesting to see, like, whenever you improve your bishop to D4, right? It's
yeah, of course. No, I mean I'm better here, but also after Bishop B4, I have this, let's say, easy move to play Rook C4, and I think he should go back, because if he goes Bishop takes D6, which is.
Let me try.
Yeah.
Oops.
Not this, but almost. But now I go, I think Rook D or Queen C. Hang on. No, first I take. Then I'm not sure. Probably. Well, the
Queen takes. Or
it's simple. Takes. But and now I have Bishop F4, and after King H1, I take here. And everything is protected, and I'm having this annoying idea to go Queen F2, Queen G3, and mate simply.
And Queen H2 mate.
Yeah. So he went for Knight E3, but Queen B6. Now Rook C3 is a threat, so he has to protect Bishop F4. And here I wasn't sure, because he went for G3, which is obviously a problem with a structure afterwards. But I wasn't sure exactly how to proceed after King H1. Obviously,
you were hesitating whether to make him play G3 or not, right?
Yeah, I mean, I had many options. For instance, I could go H5, H4 first, which is interesting, but I thought that this position is quite good for me.
Provocating the weakness.
Yeah. Also, Rook E3 is not possible because of Rook C3, Rook C3, BC, and Queen B2, and this is hanging. Yeah, we can execute it.
Yeah.
So,
and
this
and Queen B2.
And
double
A1
attack. Right.
is gone. So After queen e3, obviously I'm better, but I have to somehow proceed with d5. But I wasn't exactly sure how to do this, because obviously I need this diagonal to have some attack, exactly what happened in the game. For instance, now if I'm going d5, then he takes, and let's say after bishop d5 he goes f4, and he is also active, so I had to exchange rooks first. And I think around here he thought that it's very close to a draw, but I'm not sure it's so simple, because this, and for instance after this move, I wasn't sure even this is interesting, that bishop c8 is bishop c8.
Let us try again, yes.
Yeah. That you do this, I do this. And I wasn't sure if it's so simple. Obviously it's close to a draw, but f4 doesn't work now because of bishop b7.
And what if you just stay simple with g4 and king g3?
Yes, you should of course, but then I go bishop d7, maybe some g5 and so on. Obviously it's a draw, but he has to wait. And he didn't really have much time, so it's not so simple. And I think he simply saw this line rook d5, queen d5 and f4, but he underestimated this bishop c8 move, which I was quite proud.
Bringing bishop on b7 and the
yeah. And also the important point is that after queen e4, to stop this maneuver, I have queen d7, attacking h3, so he has to, I don't know, maybe g4, and I'm getting there anyway.
Yes.
So that was nice, I thought. So he went for this, but this
and here it should be losing,
tricky.
Right?
I don't think so. I think that he still should have some defense, but it's far from simple. Because what he did, I actually saw this g4, rook f8. And already here I didn't see how he's defending. Probably he should have compensating queen e2, but obviously if you have seconds, it's not an easy move to make.
Time pressure.
And I think he means that this position is simply lost. But I think there is only one way, but it's pretty simple, that after queen h4, if he goes queen g3, then I have
loses
hg,
the queen.
And after this, bishop f3, this, and queen c2 is 70.
Oh, nice.
Okay, queen f5, bishop h5, or bishop e4.
Absolutely.
Whatever. So so I think that around here something went wrong for him. I think here, because obviously white is not worse, of course, and then this position is probably close to a draw, but it's you still have to work a little bit.
Absolutely, all right. Thank you very much for your analysis.
Thank you.
We wish you all the best for the upcoming rounds.
Thank you.
Hello again, and that was wonderful explanation by Radoslav Wojtaszek of his win over Arkady Nightich. He seemed a little bit more pessimistic than needed, I guess. When you don't find forced wins and there's opposite bishops, you feel like maybe you're not getting through. But I think he had very, very good chances most of the way in that opposite bishop's position, and his d5 did look like reasonable judgment. Perhaps he didn't need to take the knight on e3, but once he did, he played really well. And of course, Nightich, very short of time, has just suffered 2 losses in a row. Both times he got mated basically by first by Kamar and now by Wojtaszek. So it's a tough tournament. Kamar, if you recall, after he won his very first game, he was asked what he thought his chances of winning the tournament would be, and he said almost nothing. There's so many good players, and well, he's run into 2, and the 2 where he played with black, Hari, Krishna and Adams, have both outplayed him positionally, so he's been in trouble there. We should have an interview with Noel Studer soon, and that will be great. The 23-year-old from Bern, who now living in the south of Germany, I believe, who's finally broken through for his first win after so many chances, and he beat David Anton. Anton's well, we thought yesterday after he beat Edouard, he might be getting back into the tournament. He had a really poor rapid tournament and hadn't started well here at all. But unfortunately, this loss has pushed him back down. He's still sitting in 5th place, but he's only half a point ahead of Nightich and half a point ahead of another further half point ahead of Studer. By the way, it will be a little while before Studer will be able to come to the broadcast because he is got suddenly he is the hero of the Swiss press, and so I might wrap up for today. It's been a great day. 3 decisive results. Our winners: Hari-Krishna over Kamar, Wojciech over Nightich, and Studer over David Anton. The only 2 to draw were Adams and Edouard. We also had a guest, Alexander Morozevich, and also a guest interview with Tara McGowan, Michael Adams' partner, and also the famed actress. So it's been a pretty good day, lots of good chess. And if you're not sated by now, you can always head over to the League of Legends tournament where Ding Liren might finally be winning his first match. But that's all from here. And good. We welcome you back tomorrow for Biel's 14-round Blitz tournament. All games will count for the final standings in the triathlon. So see you then.